They can hear us on the stream, eh?
What? No, they can't. No,
yes,
Tara,
they can.
Tara, tell us what you really feel about capitalism.
I'm letting you know they can hear us on the stream.
No, they can't.
Okay, well, I'm listening to your stream and I can hear us.
Why are you listening back to yourself, man? It's on a delay. That's gotta be weird.
I didn't mean to. I just refreshed your
That's like
stream
a
and the
speech-
sound came
That
up.
must be disorienting for your own head. I don't know why you're putting yourself through this.
Yeah, I'm not. I definitely
They can
wasn't-
still hear us. I'm
I
letting you
definitely
know
wasn't
this.
trying to trick you into saying dumb shit, but that's not what was happening. Anyway,
Do you
I
know at
reserve all
least
my
the
dumb
first three
shit for when
paragraphs of
cameras
the
are off.
Communist Manifesto by heart? Is this true?
this is
I never read the Communist Manifesto.
Okay, well then I'm finding the version that's the Communist Manifesto. Uwu.
oh the Uwu version of the Communist Manifesto. Yes,
The Uwu version, yes.
the Communist Manifesto.
I need to find out. Nope, that's not it. Is it the one on Reddit? The reddit.com/teenagers. Or the
Jesus. There was this
uh,
amazing post on fucking reddit.com/teenagers where like someone just put a picture of Stalin in the bathroom of their high school.
just like a shrine.
No, it was literally just like a framed photograph of Stalin, and they just placed
Just a portrait?
They placed it in the urinal. It was amazing.
Oh no. Oh, come on. Where is the... I thought I had this. Why am I going down to result like 4 or 5 in Google trying to find this stupid Uwu manifesto? Oh, manifest. This joke has already kind of died because I couldn't find this fast enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Suck! I'm pissed now. r/political compass memes. Ooh, Parker, I found your people.
Anyway, welcome to the Hammered Podcast, episode 6. Our special guest today.
I just found it!
Oh, for fuck's sake!
No, it's not worth it anymore.
Ugh.
Sorry, no. A spectre is haunting Europe. The spectre of communism. All the powers of Europe have entered a Howie alliance to exercise the spectre. It's the whole thing.
Oh, Jesus. Well,
sorry. I need some brevity to try to get over the fact that I couldn't boot up my stupid PC like when I was supposed to this morning. I just have too much stuff happening today.
Did you do a call to action tweet that I can retweet?
Yes. Well,
Also,
I mean,
why did you make the tweet like that? And why did you pick the worst pictures of me on the planet?
oh, we always pick the worst pictures of our guests. We found one.
They're
Did you see the one that we had from
dreadful.
Milos
Did you
last
see the
week?
one we had
one
from
where he was like
Milos?
6.
He's like 14, and he has a stick, and he's holding it like a samurai sword.
Yeah.
He is the European, what was it, the Jedi? Oh, what was his name? That meme that was going around, the guy who was like the Jedi.
There's not a whole bunch of guys who are
Lightsaber
Jedis, so
Kid
we
or whatever
can
his name was.
Oh, yeah, the guy with the like in his garage with the lightsaber
Yeah.
who was just like tripping over himself.
What was his name?
I forget.
Oh, right.
I just know him
I
as
remember this.
Lightsaber Kid, yeah.
I'm trying to remember what his name was.
I feel like he's the European version of like, did you ever see that that video where it's like the guy who stopped a mugging on a train with like a fucking like 4-foot katana?
No.
I feel like Milos would do
Something
that.
tells me I'm missing out by not knowing what this is.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I feel
Definitely.
yeah.
Because this sounds just stupid enough that I probably would have enjoyed it on TikTok.
Oh yeah. Anyway, episode 6 of the Hammered Podcast is brought to you by Communism. We make no monetary gain from this sponsorship because money is useless under our economic system, comrade. So,
I mean, if anybody makes money, we do collectively make all the money.
that's correct. The money we get from this communism sponsorship is going directly to our viewers.
Correct.
So
Our podcast.
Our podcast.
It is our podcast.
Our
It is-
podcast
it is
now.
our podcast, comrades.
Our podcast now.
This episode of Hammered is also brought to you by another 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, which says this is one of the best Siege podcasts I've ever seen. If you love a more casual setting with a father and son host team, then here's your podcast. Which one of us is the father?
You're the son for sure.
Yeah,
Scott is the brother.
100%.
There's no way around that. Yeah, well, that's because your country has stupid laws.
This country is stupid. You're right, though.
Well, I mean,
But
I
the
didn't say
part-
the country was stupid. I said you had stupid laws.
this
well,
country
no,
Beautiful country.
It's stupid. Well, okay, yeah, it's got the scenery going for it. If you
Yeah.
can see it past all the weed clouds, especially where I live.
Easy there, Denver.
Mm-hmm. We had 420 recently, and everyone was really pissed because
Weird. I think the whole world had 420 recently.
well, no, gee, really? That's crazy.
No, some of
It
them had
happened everywhere.
24.
I had no idea that Denver has.
I heard that it happened on the same day for mostly everybody.
Wow, really? That's amazing. It's
This
funny.
is like blowing my
It's
mind.
funny how
You just
nature
stop.
works like that. Honestly,
What they do is they'll do one big gathering in central downtown Denver. We have one massive city park in the middle that separates like the Capitol building from like all the rest of the government buildings in downtown. And right at 420, everyone takes one massive puff and raise their hands to the sky, just with their blunt in the air, and it sends this massive cloud of just pure happy into the atmosphere all at the same time. And then everyone's like, well, what do we do now? We waited till 420 to do this one thing. And then it's just, it oftentimes descends into hell because people don't know how to clean up after themselves. And they're just like, oh, well, I guess we're either staying here or we're getting crazy, or do we get music? Like, the city for a long time has been complaining about this gathering, and they don't necessarily do anything to stop it until COVID. So it just didn't take place this year for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's a thing. If that's a thing in your city, please tell me, because this is such a weird thing.
oh Jesus Christ!
It might happen in Washington, because Washington and Colorado got it at the same time. I hate this now.
What the fuck is this?
This is a communism stream, so
okay.
cosplay.
Got it. Do I?
I made sure I cosplay for the communist stream.
Jeez.
The audio listeners are going to be so confused.
For the audio listeners, Taro
can't
is
see that I'm bright red.
fucking red.
Like, he looks like my tier 3 emote.
Like he looks like a
All red.
sunburned Irishman. He's that red.
I'm trying to fix the color now. I think I fixed it.
Wait, hold on. Color intensity. Ooh,
No, I
that
fixed it.
just-
It's fine. It's fine. I balance myself. I don't need your help.
Wow.
Fine.
Wow.
You won't get any of my help then.
Yeah, the audio listeners definitely had no clue.
This is why you should watch it on YouTube, plebeians.
Or watch
Yep.
it live. You know,
Or watch it live. You could do
Yeah.
that too.
unless you're in Australia, in which case, go to sleep.
In which case, good freaking luck.
Yeah.
It's 2 a.m. for those poor saps over there. That's only if they live on the East Coast, though. I don't know what the West Coast is like. Anyway, so we pulled Parker in here for no particular reason other than, hey, we wanted somebody that had a big name in the Siege esports scene to come on the podcast and be like, hey, give us views, thank you, and now we will leave and do nothing but talk about memes for 2 hours. But something I noticed earlier today, there's actually two things that I saw that I think we can probably go into for a bit, is player burnout. The two that I'm looking at are particularly Astro from FaZe Clan and Modiga, formerly of Evil Geniuses. So we might not be able to go into too much detail on this because we're not players specifically, but to have someone who was a pro, who ground out the game for 5 straight years, and who has basically said, you know what, in the game's current state, in the state of just the way everything is being done professionally right now, Mo has opted to step back from it and won't be producing content on it. And for the most part, doesn't even look like he's going to be playing it, though I don't know if he, because it's his career, if he still will be, but just him saying, I'm stepping away from Siege has already kind of sent a shockwave through the community as of this morning. So he's obviously not with EG anymore because EG as a team, I think, is in a very incorporeal state. We're not really certain if they want to stick together and see if they can't find representation. But I think there's so much stuff about the current state of EG and LG's situation that I think we've kind of beaten the horse already over the past week. I don't really know if there's a whole bunch else to say on that front. So if we want to talk about Modiga, we can probably just talk about the hackers at high elo, because that's been the problem that everyone has been talking about for the past 2-3 weeks at this point, probably even longer than that. But now it's becoming a prevalent problem where people are saying, you know what, I'm done. So discuss. I've talked for too long.
I mean, Mo has been grinding this game for a long period of time, as you pointed out. And he's somebody that never really made it to the upper echelon the same way that a lot of other players did. You know, there are people who came out of nowhere that were playing less than Mo who, oh God, you broke everything.
It's fine. I just had to turn you down a little bit.
I could have just turned myself down. You could have just asked me. I have, you know, a board in front of me. I think that Mo, I can see why I would be, and this isn't to throw shade on Mo, but I would definitely be more alarmed if it was somebody who was on an active team that was choosing to retire. Like if, say, like Rampy just decided to quit Space Station and be like,
Right.
yeah, I hate this game, I'm done. Like, you know, I mean, Mo is kind of saying, like, from what we know, EG or XEG are not going to be in whatever Pro League is next season. He's kind of saying, you know, like, oh, I'm done with it, which is obviously not great. No, it's not great to see anybody who's been involved in the community for any substantial period of time take a step back. But I mean, we are also in the 5th year of this game. Most games don't make it this long. A lot of esports scenes tend to be younger. And I mean, you look at a lot of esports teams or esports scenes, they have teams that have like full player turnover within a year or two. And we're starting to see that. You know, a lot of the older guys, your OGs, as people will remember on Twitter and Reddit, just frankly, we're not good enough, and they've been replaced with new blood. There will be new blood that will come in and will replace Mo. Obviously, Mo is a huge part of the scene with the fact that he does YouTube and Twitch content. But, you know, you see guys like Fultz that come out of nowhere and, you know, explode on the scene. And Mo's been grinding longer than them. Mo's been grinding a lot longer than a fair amount of people in Pro League, doesn't matter the region. And his only real time in the spotlight was on a floundering Evil Geniuses team that was never particularly good with him on the roster. You know, and he never really saw any success, and now his only shot is gone. And you know, I hate to say it, but for him and Spades, I think they're talented players, but the fact that they were on a sinking ship doesn't really do much to attract them to other teams or have other teams want to take a gamble on them. So who knows? Maybe Mo just isn't getting any serious offers and he's going to go somewhere else because he's young and that's just what you do. I don't really know. I don't really talk to Mo, to be honest with you. So I don't really know firsthand, but obviously having anybody leave is not great, but I can't. I would have been more surprised. Frankly, I would have been more surprised if he was like, I'm going to go to Challenger League and grind it out and come back to Pro League than him being like, I'm probably going to take a step back.
Yeah, I mean, like, when I entered this scene, Mo Digga was in Challenger League. Like, there are 3 guaranteed things when I entered the scene. Death, taxes, and Mo Digga on an NACL team.
Son.
Right?
Wait, hold on. I came in the scene maybe about a year and a half ago. You've been in for how long at this point?
Blood Orchid.
Okay, so I don't remember if you still would have been on a Disrupt team at that point.
Disrupt did not exist at that point.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, Blood Orchid would have been before they did anything substantial or picked a team up. So yeah, so I've known him usually as the guy from Disrupt. He's been to a couple of lands in his time. I think under the DG banner primarily. I remember the Allied Esports minor being one of them, but I think that's like the only time he was really really in the spotlight, aside from just being a guy that Evil Geniuses tried to pick up to see if they couldn't right their wrongs with their season at like the back end of season 10? Is that when he came in?
Yes,
I think it was.
I think so.
He had all of season 11 under his belt, but he was with the team before then, so it would have had to have been after or during the second half for the season 10 split before Tokoname. So he's got at this stage maybe about, let's say, 6 months of Pro League experience, probably a little bit more than that. And it's not like he has a bad resume either. If only from a content creator standpoint, he's definitely somebody that an org could consider signing. But whether it happens in the form of, you know, a pro player or not, I think Parker has a good point. Because he was on a failing team, it kind of remains to be seen if he wants to disclose that he got offers and it just wasn't something that teams thought was a good fit, or what the situation was. But it's a big deal when somebody who's been doing it for that long like that just decides it's time to hang the boots up, especially when it looks like he I don't want to say making a transition over to Valorant is too premature at this stage, because I kind of think it is, but with more and more people saying, hey, we like it, then I don't know what that means for people who are saying, or who are fed up with Siege at this moment in time.
I mean, and then if you watch the video, he talks about how he knew that Evil Geniuses would not be re-upping their contract.
Yep.
And so the team was looking for basically a new organization for 4 months. So they knew like in December, in January, December, that
Yep.
they were not going forward. And Like having that.
Well, they knew they weren't going forward with Evil Geniuses. They didn't find
Yeah.
out until much later that they weren't continuing in pro, or that the team wouldn't still have a pro league spot. But they knew EG was done 3 or 4 months in advance.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to
you're
clarify.
fine. You're fine. Yeah, but it really seems like that whole Evil Geniuses roster was just handed fucking L after L after L.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's just, what are you gonna do, really?
I think it's more detrimental that we're losing him as a streamer and a content creator than as a player.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to
Yeah.
try to downplay his record as a player, but I mean, if you pull up his Liquipedia page, you know, the only real success they had was in the USN qualifiers. That was it. Outside of that, you know, you're right. He was at the Allied Esports Minor. Disrupt was the first team eliminated. They finished dead last.
Right.
He played at DreamHack with EG, and they made it into the Final Four. Which is when I think Geo was still on the team, if I remember correctly. And yeah, they made it into the Final Four.
At the same time? I don't know if they were. Sorry. I don't know if they
Sorry?
actually were. I don't know if they were on the same team at the same time.
I'm pretty sure it was because Geo left and then they picked up Gotcha, and then Gotcha left and they picked up Spades, right? I believe that was the way it worked.
Let me see. Mo came on September and Geo was gone in November. Oh no, you're
Yeah.
totally right.
No, the roster, the roster at Montreal was the 3 core of EG plus Geo and Mo, and it was Mo's. That was technically Mo's third event because his first event ever, if you remember, was on that Orglis team that was the old Noble roster way back in the day. That was like Yeti, Mo, etc. Back at USN the first time, and then they did USN a second time when he was on EG, and it's like they got beat at USN first as well to TSM. They fell 0-2. They were the worst team out of Disrupt. Disrupt was the worst team out of Allied. And yeah, fair enough. I mean, at DreamHack Montreal, they made it top 4, which is obviously really strong. But outside of that, he never really had success on that roster. That roster never really had success. And obviously, he's not a problem. It's not like it's his fault. But I can definitely see why he would want to take a step back from playing professionally when this guy's been grinding, you know, for a year and a half now, if not longer. You know, he was in Challenger League in early 2018. We're over 2 years from that now, and he's been surpassed by a lot of people. I can see why he'd be frustrated. Additionally, while he's a big streamer, he streams at like the worst possible time to stream at. He streams in the dead of night against King George, which is when, like, if you're streaming from like 9-10 p.m. till 4 in the morning, which I believe is roughly his hours, you're going to be going up against a huge swath of cheaters. You're going to be going up against the freak show stacks that exist at that hour. You know, like playing Rainbow Six between like 10 p.m. and like 4 a.m. is like the equivalent of going into the dark parts of the ocean where they have those scary fish with the lanterns and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no,
that's basically the people you're playing against at that point.
You've got a 50-50 shot of running into the fucking space station stack.
Yeah. I mean,
you're
it's
going
like
to die.
if he streamed during the day and he played during the day, the amount of cheaters that he's running into on NA during the day is nothing. And it's like, I get that maybe he has his niche carved out at that time, and maybe that works the best for him because they're scrimming or whatever. But it's like, I can see why he'd absolutely be burnt out, on top of the fact that the game is kind of frustrating to play right now, and on top of the fact that there's so much cheating. But I mean, you've got a nice enticing option in Valorant, which I don't particularly like, and I don't think has a lot of overlap with Siege, but the EG guys really, really like it. So,
I mean, if they can do it, let's, make it happen.
If EG wants to come back and grab a Valorant team, you've got a whole 5 stack of people who are really pissed at Siege at the moment, so you could do it.
Yeah,
I'm not saying do it, but the option is
open. I don't think they would. I don't think they do that. I have no doubt that EG will at some point broach into Valorant, but I don't think that's the team they'd pick up.
I wouldn't either. No.
I think the easiest option for Valorant teams right now is just find a bunch of burnt out CS pros, give them dirt cheap contracts, and see where that goes.
Isn't that what Swag's doing? Didn't he get signed to? I think he got signed to the org T1, which I didn't know was a thing. I know it was as a content creator, but he just announced that he was done with CS as of a couple of months ago.
Well, no shit,
we all
Swag's
know
done with CS.
Well, no, but like officially, like giving it like one more chance where he can, if he's been banned from I don't remember if it was ESL or Valve events, but right after the iBuyPower incident. So he's now going like full bore into Valorant, like however he can, but that's just because he is banned and no longer has an opportunity. It just took him, 6 years to realize that he didn't have a future in it anymore.
Right.
So I think Mo has enough of an audience, and I think Valorant's a hot enough game that he can still continue to do well for himself. So him saying that he's done with Siege, I don't necessarily think is a death knell for his career. I think whenever you do the thing where if you swap in the content that you create as any creator, then it's going to be difficult for your audience to also want to convert with you, because you're known for doing one thing, and then if you decide to completely switch the game that you play, then it will be a hard transition to make. But he's known for the FPS genre. Valorant's a really hot thing, and he's also not half bad at FPS games. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been picked up by EG, to get off Disrupt and get out of CL. So I think in his case, he'll be fine. But to not have him around in Siege, with even though he does stream at an odd time, for somebody who is as notable as he is within the community, to lose somebody like that, and to basically outwardly say in a video, the game is unplayable for me, or I find it to be just the most boring thing ever. He said that he hadn't played since before the Ying update, and that's been a thing for almost a week now. So, to be fair, if I were playing at high elo, I wouldn't want to play against Ying right now either. But
there's a lot of the old guard that don't play Rainbow Six outside of scrims and stuff like that. And I mean, maybe this is an unpopular opinion. That doesn't bother me. If this is your life all the time, I can see why you'd want to take a break from it, decompress, play other games, do things in real life, just veg. Like, think about it. If you're dry running this game for a couple hours a day, and then you're playing this game in scrims for a couple hours, and then you even stream for 2, 3, 4 hours, because there's a fair amount of pro players that stream after scrims, and then they play their matches, then they stream. You are consuming Siege for probably 6 to 10 hours a day, every day. Factor in sleeping and eating and all that jazz. And it's just I can see why they'd want to take a break. Not everybody needs to play in no life this game. And, the EG guys in particular, Young touched on this on his stream he did actually after the news broke about EG releasing the roster and them supposedly not being in Pro League next season. Young basically said, I don't play this outside of scrims. And I know that that's a comment that has been echoed by other EG members in the past. It's no surprise that, if Mo's not playing with NVK, Necrox, or Young in game, that it can be hard to maybe motivate yourself. And it doesn't surprise me that the general mood of the team is like that. You've got SSG who plays this game, frequently and regularly all the time. I see the LG guys squatting up and playing a fair bit. The Rec guys play a lot of ranked, especially when they're streaming. The Sonics play a lot of ranked, especially when they're streaming. There's lots of players that play this game, and the EU guys play it all the time as well. Like I said, I think the bigger thing with Mo is that he's leaving as a content creator, and I don't want to be this guy that says it, but I assume he'll be back. I don't think he's leaving for good. Everybody's super hot on Valorant right now, but we don't know what the landscape for that is going to be. Number one, like I said, it has very minimal overlap, if any, with Rainbow Six. It is essentially a CSGO clone for most people that come from Rainbow Six, and they're not particularly going to enjoy it because it plays very differently from Rainbow Six. Number two, let's be completely honest. The only reason why half the people watching it right now are watching it is to get keys. It's bots farming keys. It's people watching reruns to try and get into the beta. I've watched a handful of Valorant streams that have over 1,000 viewers, and their chat is deader than somebody who's got 30 viewers. So who knows what the actual audience is for Valorant content? And, brass tacks, even if he dislikes it, there are a lot of people who dislike Rainbow Six who still make content about it because it pays the bills.
Honestly,
right?
I can tell you, I got a Valorant key because there's a streamer, and I'll say his name because I genuinely like him, Lothar. He was a Hearthstone pro, and then he went to Fortnite, and now he's playing Valorant. And he got into the early Valorant thing, and he started his stream April 6th, I think, and his stream has not gone down. Right? So he'll go live for 8 hours, and then he'll just take that and he'll double it, and he'll go live for another 16.
Yeah. It's honestly, the reruns and all that stuff I think is super shameful.
The 24/7 thing where you're not actually hosting it as a rerun, but you're just putting a VOD up on stream and letting the stream go for however long it needs. And then
there's a big
maintain
thing on there
level
that says, this is a VOD.
Yeah. Which, no, that technically should fall under a part of Twitch's TOS that says if there is no streamer there, then it is a reportable offense, which is something I've seen happen before. That's, I think, the primary reason why Twitch also banned like things like sleep streams, where you're just not interacting with chat, you're just leaving something up, and it's with minimal effort that you're drawing all of these people into a stream, because you're doing nothing, on your end except for, playing a video, or quite literally just having nothing interactable on stream, which is the primary reason why people will will want to watch them. These days, you're right, the bot farm will keep the viewership numbers up. I don't know if Mo has to worry about that though, because he was pulling in, he'll pull in whatever he has to pull in. So I don't know if he's probably maintaining viewership right now because everyone needs to watch streams to get in, but then once the game hits later fully for everyone to play, regardless of whether you have a key or not, then we're going to see everyone's numbers begin to fluctuate, and we'll figure out what an actual Valorant or a streaming career doing nothing but Valorant looks like for people who are serious enough about it. Because right now we don't have a good enough picture.
If we look at his last 7 days, all he streamed was Valorant. The last time that Mo streamed Rainbow Six was... where is it here? The last time Mo streamed Rainbow Six was the 5th. Sunday, April 5th was the last time they streamed Rainbow Six, and his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His last 5 Rainbow Six streams, he peaked at 935 viewers, 1,400 viewers, 608 viewers, 440 viewers, and then 1,000 viewers. Those were his last 5 Rainbow Six streams. And those were over the last 30 days. Outside of that, over the last 14 days, he's played nothing but Valorant, other than he played Dead by Daylight very briefly. And funny enough, his Dead by Daylight stream pulled way more than Valorant. His peak viewership on Valorant thus far, over the last 14 days, was 516. But since then, all of his streams have gone down in terms of average viewership, to the point where his last 3 average streams all barely broke 200 viewers. So... It's on a downward swing right now, which is what we're seeing with Valorant across the board.
Yeah.
Is that all Valorant streamers, as more and more people are getting keys, and frankly, as more and more people realize that it's not the most captivating game to watch right now, there is a very stark contrast between viewership with Valorant in the last 4 days and the last 14 days and the previous 14 days. And it's that it's falling dramatically. People have gotten their keys. People are starting, to watch other things, and it's going way down. And, maybe his YouTube channel's doing better, but, getting average viewership of 200 on another game, it's an investment. It might not pay off right away, but I can't imagine it's paying the bills. Because if you just pull up his numbers over the last 14 days, they are way, way, way down from where they were with Rainbow Six, which makes a lot of sense given the fact that he's a Rainbow Six streamer, but still doesn't bode well yet for him transitioning to another game.
I mean, I was talking to a Rainbow Six content creator, and he was saying, yeah, I uploaded a Valorant video, and where my other videos usually get like 100 to 200,000 views, my Valorant video got 14,000.
Yeah.
So
There's been a lot of people who are like making like guides for stuff like that, and it's actually a very interesting case, and it's something that's been discussed quite a lot on Reddit. Is why does Valorant YouTube content get such lousy viewership, but Twitch doesn't? And I mean, is just everybody ignoring the fact that it's like people are watching for keys?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. People are watching to get a key. That's it. They leave. People will go into like 8 different streams. They'll mute the tabs and they'll just sit there and they'll type every now and then. And, it doesn't work. It doesn't make it any better, but it's like, that's why people are doing it. People are literally trying to farm a key.
I mean, like, I think there's an audience for Valorant. I don't think there's much of a Rainbow Six audience for Valorant.
There's very minimal overlap in these games. And I think that's a lot of people are like, Valorant's going to kill Rainbow Six. And I'm like, no. If anything, Rainbow Six's balancing is going to kill Rainbow Six before Valorant does.
This is sad, but true.
Is Valorant going to pull a couple people away? Maybe those disgruntled players who loved CSGO and come from that style of gameplay? Sure, yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, if you play an hour of Rainbow Six and then you play an hour of Valorant, with the exception of the fact that you have a gun and you're shooting people, they couldn't be more different games. So, I mean, I don't know why people think that it's going to be killing Siege.
Yeah, I mean...
all these brainless takes that are like, Valorant's going to kill Siege, and I just read it and I'm like, nope.
there's a lot of that whenever a new game gets introduced anyway, because there's a game that I used to play way back in the day called Dirty Bomb, and this is right around the time that Overwatch came out, and there were a lot of people that were saying Dirty Bomb actually had the opportunity to overtake Overwatch. Now, this is back when it was in like a beta phase or something, and this is I need to remember exactly when this was, like early 2016 to mid 2017 or so. And it comes out, it's a free-to-play shooter. It's a very, very well-made game for all intents and purposes, and it had a developer no one had really heard of, but it had a really prominent publisher. It was published by Nexon. So in terms of looking for an FPS game, a free-to-play FPS game, nonetheless, to get published, it's not too terrible. So it comes out, and everyone is looking at like what is a really stark difference. Dirty Bomb at the time was very gunplay focused, and Overwatch has always been your ability game, gunplay and aim second. That's always been what Overwatch has been about. And that's why it's a big turnoff to a lot of FPS veterans, because what you do in game is not completely beholden on what happens to your gun skill. But that game, just solely because of the publisher, sweeps up, overtakes most of the market, and then Dirty Bomb just kind of falls by the wayside because of what is really that publisher difference. But there was still the talk about it, and I'm like, no, in the beginning it's not going to do anything to Overwatch. Like, the talk about this game going to, like everyone was talking about Apex Legends being a Fortnite killer. That happened for about 2 weeks, and then everyone kind of forgot Apex Legends existed because Fortnite copped a lot of their features and said, you know what, we'll take this, we'll use it for ourselves now. At this stage, anyone who's saying that Valorant has any potential to overtake any other game within the FPS genre, I think is foolhardy and doesn't have any fact behind it. It's not going to overtake CS because CS is already long-standing. It won't do much to Overwatch because it's such a completely different game, and at this point, Overwatch is kind of already dead in the water, so if it dies completely, it's not due to Riot overtaking it in any sense of the word. It's going to be because Overwatch itself doesn't know how to sustain viewership.
My thing with Valorant, and I actually talked about this last night, Hammer, Chatter, I can't remember if you were here last night when we were talking about it, but yeah, you were. I think that Valorant is going to be huge in the East. I think in China and Korea, Japan, those kinds of areas, I think it'll be massive.
Oh yeah.
I think in the West, I don't know if Valorant is going to be able to overtake CS:GO in the West, especially Europe. I think CS:GO is just such a mainstay of Europe that I can't really see it getting surpassed. I mean, maybe. This is still really early days, but I don't know, everybody's super high on Valorant, and I'm not. I've talked to a lot of people about Valorant, and there are a lot of people who very privately confess to me, I'm streaming it because it gets good viewership. The amount of people who've told me like it's an okay game, but I feel like I need to stream it because it's so good for viewership, because there are drops like I'm going to get partnered, blah, 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 or, I'm getting more eyes on me, etc. I might get sponsorships from this. I've had about half a dozen people who've told me that they have been streaming more Valorant than anything else because they think it's lucrative for their careers, not because they enjoy it.
Yeah.
And sure, maybe there's people who do the same thing with Rainbow Six. Maybe there's certainly people who do that with Fortnite. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think the biggest issue that Valorant is going to have, and I know we've kind of strayed off Mo here, and I think we should probably get back onto that topic, but the big thing with Valorant, like I said, is that they are, and we all agree on this, they're entirely different games than Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six and Valorant are wildly different. I would say that Rainbow Six probably has more in common with Call of Duty Modern Warfare than it does with Valorant.
Yeah.
The movement system, the aim, the way everything works tends to be more in line with Call of Duty than it does Valorant. I don't think Valorant's going to kill CS:GO. CS:GO continues to grow despite the Valorant hype.
I think people saying X is going to kill CS:GO. People have been saying X is going to kill CS:GO since I was fucking 4 years old.
Nothing kills games anymore.
Nothing kills games. People are
Nothing kills games. Like, gamers continue to say, like, this is going to kill this game. Nothing does. You know what killed Apex Legends? The fact that the devs didn't do anything for 3 months.
Like, holy shit.
Like,
there's still fucking Quake 3 championships at QuakeCon. Games don't fucking die.
Yeah.
Marvel versus Capcom 2 is going to be at EVO.
I mean, we have literal public numbers in terms of Twitch numbers, in terms of player numbers on Steam. We have so many numbers that we can just see at our disposal that Rainbow Six statistically, in terms of people playing, is doing better than ever before. We can talk and we can hem and haw over how good the balancing is. We can talk about whether it's skillful gameplay. We can talk about whether it's good or bad that we have this huge influx of new players. But objectively speaking, with all of the data we have at our disposal, every single metric is up year over year. And yet there are still people who are like, Rainbow Six is dying, this game is going to be dead in a year, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, how stupid are these people that they have all this information available, they can look all of it up themselves, and yet everything literally slapping them in the face that's saying, not only is this game not dying, it's actually doing significantly better than it used to in terms of people playing it and interaction on social media platforms, on Reddit, on Twitter, especially on Twitch. These people then turn around and have the gall to just be so blatantly wrong. And it happens a lot with games. They'll say, yeah, you know, it's going to kill Overwatch. Oh, it's going to kill Fortnite. PUBG has been talked about how PUBG is going to die. Fortnite's going to kill PUBG. Apex is going to kill PUBG. Ring of Elysium is going to kill PUBG. Like,
Jesus, no.
and yet PUBG still has, like, you know, mind you, it's not in a good place, but it certainly has more than a couple 100,000 people playing it.
Yeah.
So people just need perspective, man.
I mean, like the huge thing that's happened with PUBG recently is, I believe it's primarily in the East, so like Korea, a lot in India, a lot in the sort of island nations, so like the Philippines, Indonesia, and in China, it's giant, it's fucking huge, is PUBG Mobile.
Which is such an interesting concept. Like, I went to TwitchCon in San Diego, and there was a PUBG booth, but it was a PUBG Mobile one.
Yeah.
Like, and that's probably because they've gotten so much interest after what is, I can't English right now, a significantly hard fall from where it used to be back when it first came out. I think the hype over that game kind of ended because it's kind of there are far more polished battle royale games these days, so everyone kind of looks at PUBG as being the thing that helped to pioneer the genre, but now everyone can jump on the board, find different ways to improve its systems. But the main game died off, but the mobile game is freaking huge. Like, Fnatic signed a whole esports team for like an Indian PUBG mobile team, and that was the moment I looked at this and went, is this really this big? Like, it kind of came out of the blue. But this is the point that we're at now. With PUBG, I'm just kind of shocked. Where the main esport dies, the mobile one rises in its place, and I don't know how this became a thing.
I mean, it's because PUBG Mobile is made by Tencent and is better optimized on a phone than the game is on computer. Additionally, we in the West don't really understand and have a proper view of how big the East is. You know, like, I hate to say it, but we are such a tiny user base in comparison to India, China, Korea, and Japan.
Oh yeah, no,
like you can design a game fully for China or for India, and as long as it sells well there, they don't give a shit about Europe and North America because we are a tiny number. I mean, look at PUBG regularly. When Asia goes to sleep, its Steam numbers goes from 600, 700,000 down to 200,000. You know, and that's EU and NA being 200,000 versus Asia's 700,000. And that's not even including that they have their own launcher now. That's just the public numbers on Steam. So PUBG Mobile, there was a report I read, I can't remember when it was. There was a report I read that PUBG Mobile actually makes more money than Fortnite. But everybody talks about Fortnite this, Fortnite that. Why? Because we as Western nations, our media is dominated by Western media, and they talk about Fortnite, which is a huge game in the West, which it is. But all the way over in Asia, PUBG Mobile makes more money than Fortnite more often than not, and we just never hear about it. Why? Because we don't play it. We don't play it. There's no point in reporting on it, and it's not relevant to us. But because of that, we lose out on that information, knowing that there's 5 times the amount of active players in one country over there than both NA and EU combined.
And then there's also sort of this interesting. I was reading an article about this the other day. I don't know if you saw it. It was about phones as compared to the popularity of different games. So
maybe I did. I think I actually did. Yeah, let me pull this up.
In countries like the US or in countries like Europe, like Germany and the UK, a lot of people have flagship phones, right? So you've got your iPhones, I have a Google Pixel, right? And these things they're behemoths, they're tanks. They can pretty much run anything, right? But to play Fortnite on a phone, you need a phone made in the past 2 years that costs at a minimum, like $700?
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Really graphic intensive program.
You know what PUBG runs on? Like an iPhone 6. Like an iPhone foot. PUBG probably runs on an iPhone fucking 3G, right?
We could try it.
Like,
Yeah.
The system requirements for mobile games, a lot of these are just fucking nothing, right? It's why the game that makes the most money year after year consistently, one of them, is fucking, and God, I wish this wasn't true. It's a Japanese gacha game called Fate Grand Order.
The name rings a bell, but I don't know why.
Because you follow Baka Brian and he constantly makes pictures of the,
yes,
girls in that
but
game.
aside from that aspect, yeah.
That's why you know what Fate Grand Order is.
Yeah, okay.
It's literally a game where you just like click 3 cards and then the fucking animations happen. There's nothing. It's basically just you pay $17 to try to get a fucking PNG, right? But that game runs on dirt. That game, I'm pretty
that's
sure
what they're doing with Valorant.
You could
right?
load it into a fucking toaster and it would work, and that's why Valorant's going to be so good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are knocking Valorant. They're like, oh, you know, they look like free to play mobile characters from like a rip off FPS. Like the art design is super lacking. Everything is really bare bones. Blah blah. Why does this game look like it was made in 2011?
Because it's not designed for you.
Yeah, because it's designed for an entire part of the world whose machinery is, quite frankly, from 2011. That's why, like you look at the average specs of the West versus the East, and it's night and day. We are very privileged here to be able to afford great computers that are high end, top of the line. That is by no means the norm. So you need to design around that.
Yeah, you want to.
And that's exactly it. That's why PUBG Mobile is the way it is. It's designed to run on garbage software, but they can garbage software, garbage hardware, but they make it work. And you know what? It doesn't matter what you're playing it on. If those people are giving you money, you're going to cater to them. That's just how it works.
You want to play a fucking PC and game in Korea? You don't have a PC in your house. You go down to your PC bong, and they got snacks, they got showers, they got beds, they got PCs. All your friends are there, and you can just sit in a 5-man row and just play Valorant for like 6 hours. Right? And that's
I
like
think
what,
the
$20?
amount of money that I've spent to get my computer to run Siege at a decent frame rate has been pretty considerable over the 3 to 4 years I've had this system.
Yeah.
So for the guys over there to be able to run a game that is going to blow up, like regardless of what you might think of it right now, that's going to have a hefty esports scene. Teams are going to be all over that kind of stuff, and it's going to get serviced constantly. So for them to be able to play that at, a relatively smooth speed with hardware that doesn't even need to be decent, it can be below decent, like they're going to be living the life in the East. Like it's going to be great. But for us over here, we look at it and go, okay, my Twitch viewership is down, so do I really want to keep playing it? And that's kind of where a whole bunch of people will begin to, like, people should be at crossroads for that kind of stuff right now, as opposed to waiting for the game to come out.
Yeah. Do you want to continue talking about Mo, by the way? Because I note that we are now 45 minutes in, roughly, or 40 minutes in, and we have just been ranting about Valorant, which is great. And I don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I can go on a podcast. I can talk
Valorant's
for 2 to 3
fucking
hours,
talk about Siege. Valorant's going to kill
Siege.
Siege, Parker. We got to talk about Valorant. It's going to kill Siege.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mo thing is alarming, and I woke up this morning and I saw the video that was posted about 3 hours ago on the Rainbow Six Pro League subreddit, and literally every single comment is like, this game is dying, and I was just like, and then somebody in the comments was like, that's Ubisoft killing somebody's career, blah blah. And I was like, if you're gonna knock Ubisoft for killing somebody's career, you inversely have to also praise them for giving careers to everybody that's involved in Pro League.
No, but they did that by themselves.
Like, I don't have this job without Ubisoft. Like if you guys are getting paid for this podcast, you guys aren't getting paid for this podcast without Ubisoft. Like
Yep.
We all have these opportunities because of Ubisoft. Like imagine the mental gymnastics you need to do to knock Ubisoft, for Mo stepping out of the game and being like, well, they killed his career, and then not also understanding that the equivalent is that, like, you need to praise Ubisoft for all of the jobs they've given just by this game existing, let alone all that they've done for like Pro League and stuff. Like I mean, I'm like, what?
Nah, Siege only has
I was reading it, and I actually feel my brain leaking out of my ears.
Siege only has like a 500, 600 person development team. It's too small. Honestly, that's not a lot of jobs. No.
there are more people working on Rainbow Six Siege than I believe work at Valve. Valve's like, what, 300, 400 people or something like that? I think there's more people than that working at Rainbow Six right now.
There are 14...
And that's just the Montreal division, I think, right?
No. That's just, no, that's across the globe.
That's, the Montreal division is like 300 to 400. I don't know how many people work in Montreal.
Yeah. I think there's about 400 to 500 working on it globally, but I don't know how much of that is art, assets, sales, marketing, etc.
Yeah, and then there's also, like, what is it? It's like there's the ones in... So there's the North Carolina team, there's the Barcelona team, there's the Montreal team, there's the France team. I believe some of them are in the like Indonesia team, I think. I could be wrong.
I don't know if there's an Indonesia team working.
Or there might be some Japan team, but I think that's more for like marketing stuff. But there's like people working on Siege on basically every continent besides fucking Antarctica.
Yep. Going a little bit back to the point about criticizing UB or praising UB, Parker, I know that this is a point that's just been absolutely beaten to death the past couple weeks, and everyone coming into your stream has always been, questioning the move by UB. Should we be praising UB? Should we be knocking EG and LG for what they did? And you've had a position, and you've had to like defend that position on and off for the past little bit. I don't know.
I'm Chief Shill.
I know.
Shill in Chief.
You're chief Ubisoft dick sucker, and for some reason I'm directly behind them because I don't dare criticize UB at the moment. But
I mean, that should be my job. And like Parker's over here just stealing my fucking thunder.
Dude, I did a 3-hour stream where I literally shit on Ubisoft, and then the next day people were like, "Why isn't Interro'S shilling?" And I'm like, "Are you the stupidest people that don't like?" I literally spent 3 hours roasting Ubisoft's balancing decisions, literally played a full stream of the shit that used to be broken in this game, things that still haven't been fixed, highlighting all of the blemishes on this game, talking about how it's inexcusable the way they balance certain operators, and then literally the next day people are like, somebody goes and flies on subreddit and literally types without literally no shame, just fires off a thing being like, "I am so tired of Interro having to continuously defend Ubisoft." And I'm like, I just spent over 3 hours shitting on them literally yesterday. Like, I don't, I hate that subreddit sometimes, man. I love it and I go to it every day because like there are sensible people, but like here's another complaint. I'm just going to rant about the subreddit for a second here. I talk about this all the time.
Oh, I have one for you.
I talk about this all the time with the Rainbow Six Pro League subreddit. Is that they never clip or submit anything. They only share stupid shit or drama. Like, there are, like, every single week there is some significant podcast with, like, somebody of importance in the community talking about, like, pertinent issues, and it gets zero airtime on that subreddit. There have now been three devs that have gone on that new Logic Bomb podcast, and the only thing that goes on that subreddit is literally, "Hey, the new Logic Bomb podcast is out." And then they just drop a 2.5 hour long video and expect that to get traction, and it gets like 6 upvotes and people move on. Meanwhile, you go to like the CSGO or the League of Legends or the Apex Legends or the Fortnite or Overwatch or competitive Overwatch. And what do you see? If there's ever a podcast, there's 1 billion clips shared. You go to competitive Overwatch, when they do plat chat and the casters all do that, there's like 40 clips that are submitted. Sideshow's opinion on Mercy, Bren's opinion on hero pools, Custa's opinion on like the meta, and it's like they're all submitted like that. And it's like, even now, like, we have spoken openly about Mo and about burnout in this game, and now we're going to talk about the subreddit, and none of this shit is going to get clipped or shared. And then people are going to turn around and be like, "Well, why doesn't anybody talk about it?" And I see this all the fucking time. Literally, there have been 3 devs that have been on that Logic Bomb podcast talking about why they balance operators the way they do, how they take feedback, why they balance things for certain people, why they need to be better at communication. And there is literally a clip. There's literally a clip, I think, of one of those, and that's it. Yet, meanwhile, if you click on that Mo Digga is done with Siege, one of the most upvoted comments right now, 2 hours ago, says, "The worst part is we aren't going to hear a peep out of UB about anything for another 2 months." For the last 3 fucking weeks, there have been people and devs going on podcasts and literally talking about these issues, and none of you fucking watch them, and none of you fucking clip them, and then you turn around and you just spray this fucking shit all over the internet being like, we're not going to hear anything from them. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You just need to watch the fucking podcasts, but none of you share it. And you live in these little fucking echo chambers where all you do is circle jerk all the time about how Ubisoft doesn't communicate with us because your only fucking information comes from the official Rainbow Six game account on Twitter. The devs all talk about it. The devs go on podcasts. They go on their spare time and they talk about it and they give you their methodology. And you might not like it, but they do it. And then you don't fucking see it and you don't care. And when people talk to you about it, you move the goddamn goalposts and you're like, well, it doesn't matter if they're telling us about it. That's how this conversation started. It literally started because you said they don't talk to you about it. So when you say we're not going to hear anything for 2 months, idiots. The Invitational was 2 months ago. I know it feels like it was 4 fucking years ago. The Invitational was 2 months ago. We have had tons of communication since then. We are all literally locked inside of our houses. And if 3 days go by, it feels like an entire month. Keep in mind that these people are also working from home. So clearly, they are not able to do the same amount of work as if they were all in the office because of the global pandemic. It fucking irritates me so much. And it's just like, I'm like drowning in this.
Okay.
Because it's every day that the Rainbow Six Pro League subreddit is like this, and Twitter is like this, and Twitch is like this. And I'm just like, I want to pull my fucking brain out of my skull and slam it on the desk until it's mush.
So I'm done. About a week ago.
I can't deal with it anymore. I cannot deal with it.
He said everything right.
About a week ago, I went on the Rainbow Six Siege the Rainbow Six Siege Pro League subreddit, right? And I made a Twitter post titled, "If you want to know what is happening, you need to be on Twitter. If you want to hear the thoughts of pros and devs, you need to be on Twitter. It's really that simple." Yep. Because there was a 1,000 upvote post by fucking Cuenin, and that's unacceptable. Cuenin is so hated that he tried to crowdfund his return to America from Turkey and got like 6 cents as a joke.
He was also trying to sell his account too. Like he shouldn't be respected for this kind of stuff, yet his comment about the current state of siege gets more upvotes than your post about going on Twitter.
Right? Okay, so fucking I made that post and someone commented, or I know this is crazy, just look at the information with a cool and rational head and make a decision on what you believe when you have all the info. You can't get all the info if you don't fucking look!
The thing is that the subreddit really should be the portal where everything is just compiled, right? Like, we shouldn't need to go on Twitter. Like, there are constant complaints about like all we do is share Twitter clips and stuff like that, and like Twitter screenshots and stuff like that on the subreddit. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's tons of Twitter literal screen grabs on the competitive Overwatch subreddit, on the League of Legends subreddit, on the CSGO subreddit. There are days where the CSGO subreddit, you browse by new, and if there's no matches going on, it feels like half the shit is literally just Twitter posts. Why? Yeah. Because most people who don't use Reddit don't necessarily have Twitter, and those who do realize that Twitter also sucks, just as Reddit does. They both suck, and you don't want to have to use both of them because it slowly kills you inside. So people just pick one or the two, right? Reddit is the portal where everything should go to.
Yeah.
You find something cool on Twitch, it goes to Reddit. You find something cool on YouTube, it goes to Reddit. You find something cool on Facebook, God forbid. Twitter, you find something cool in a match, it all should go to Reddit. But the problem is that everybody's already on Reddit, so nobody shares any of this shit. And everybody's already on Twitch, so nobody shares any of this shit. And it's like, I should be able to go to the Rainbow Six Pro League subreddit, and I should be able to catch up on everything that's happened in Rainbow Six Pro League for that day. Mm-hmm. Anything esports related, amateur matches, that includes CCS, that includes allied esports stuff, that includes some of the bigger amateur leagues, that includes Challenger League, that includes things like, for example, Ace has been posting on Twitter a lot about his data. A lot of times that stuff doesn't get posted on the subreddit.
Which are phenomenal, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's share great. That stuff because it's good and he puts effort into it.
You know how much... I've seen nothing about the fucking BTR 10s on the subreddit, and that's like...
There's nothing about better than 10 mans on there.
No, better than ranked
10 mans. Sorry, there's nothing. That's set up by guys in PL, by the way. That's fresh as baby at the moment, and there's plenty of other people involved in it.
Hey, do you want to have an actual competitive experience? Why don't you try to get in here? And nobody's fucking talking about it on the fucking competitive subreddit.
Pay attention to it. You don't like ranked for some reason? There's an alternative. We can promote this kind of stuff here.
Yep. The thing is that I just scrolled up now to read the chat, and Snoopy said, I'm going to be real. I work for a living. I don't have 2 hours to sit down and watch a podcast to get answers for something. That's exactly why people need to be proactive and clip shit. If you've got who was it? Pulsing Smoothie, literally like the lead developer is on a 2 hour long podcast, and they talk about everything. They talk about Jaeger. They talk about Buck. He talks about methodology of balancing. He talks about how Barcelona balances things. He talks about how they take feedback. It's so in depth and literally answers all these questions that are very valid questions that a lot of people are asking about balancing, because we're not game developers. We are not Bikini Body. We don't balance this game. We don't understand what it is like behind the scenes. And a lot of people don't. And a lot of people throw out wild accusations like, why are they're still making skins, but they can't balance Ying, which is just like, pfft. But anyway, we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But in the meantime, it's like people don't understand how balancing works. Well, it's a good thing you've got 2 hours of listening to the main guy who balances it, explaining it, but nobody clips anything. And there's lots of stuff he says over the span of 2 hours that you can clip in 59-second increments or less very easily, and then put on that subreddit. And people just don't do that. And then we wonder why, for some particular reason, in comparison to a lot of other esports, the Rainbow Six Pro League community is clueless in comparison to their counterparts in CSGO or in Overwatch or in League or in Dota, because people don't put in the work to share this stuff. There are a couple people on that Pro League subreddit who literally keep that thing alive by being the only people who actually support it and post things. It can't just be all one or two people. People need to start actively clipping things. On my stream all the time, and I'm not saying this because I'm important, but they're on my stream all the time. I'll be like, what do you think of the Ying, changes? What do you think of the Jaeger changes, etc.? And I'll give my thoughts, oftentimes in under a minute. Never gets clipped. It never gets clipped. And then you see Overwatch, and they make like a groundbreaking change to like Orisa, and like there's 30 posts from various pros and casters about what they think, all offering different insight. And it gives you things to engage with. There's food for thought. There are always people who are affiliated with the pro scene of this community streaming every day, day in, day out. And none of it gets any traction anywhere. And it's very upsetting. And it's very frustrating because it hurts our scene. It doesn't grow it at all. And we need more people to take that effort to actually cultivate this, like these conversations, and post this stuff on social media.
If we're still kind of on the subreddit specifically, I think something that keeps on, or that has been hammered home recently, is the idea that it's a place for legitimate conversation, and it's a good place for it. You're right, it should definitely be a hub for this kind of stuff. If you're going for a clip, if you're putting something that you see on Twitter, if you want to go there for updates, everything should go there. It was just regarded as a meme because even before like Milosh and a couple people were starting to like mention it on stream, I think I specifically remember he like mentioned the subreddit at like the finals at Tokonami, like day one on the desk, and I'm going, oh, okay, shoot, like I don't know if I've heard the subreddit gets shouted out before. This is kind of interesting. But it's like before he even did that, the subreddit was still regarded as a toxic cesspool of hate and not much more else aside from news and then a couple of really bad takes that for some reason gain traction among a certain group of people. But now it begins to gain traction after Tokonami. More people keep on mentioning it. It goes from like 20,000 subscribers on the subreddit around the time of Tokonami to where it sits now at almost, 69,000.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Nice. Say nice in chat right now, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Say nice.
You too. Say nice right now.
Leave nice in the comments if you think that's nice.
Nice. Good, nice joke.
Nice.
The point is, it gets this big bump. It gets a lot of legitimacy because more people are talking about it. There are people within the scene, esports being very accessible means that you can at somebody, in the scene on Twitter, and you have a better chance of getting a response back from them than you do from someone, say, like a soccer pro or an NFL professional or somebody who has too many followers to count. It's a lot more accessible because it's a smaller industry. So this blows up because people are on it all the time. It gets a lot more views, and the posts on it do generate discussion, but the problem is it doesn't get better. There isn't, from what I can tell, an active mod team on this thing that's trying to do what they can to adapt or change the culture to the point that this can actually be a useful site. Because you're right, people are using this for drama. People are using this for whatever that they might see. It's got, like, if I scroll through the past couple of posts right now, it's a couple of basic questions that have been answered by other people already, the news about Stigs joining Fnatic, a couple of NACL ratings in terms of the past couple of weeks that come from Super's new rating system, and then tweets, more questions, another meme from Eogan, who I still can't pronounce his name properly,
It's
then the cycle will keep
it's
on
literally
repeating.
just Owen. That's it. Owen, like Owen Wilson.
EO Gran.
No, he's Irish. They just
again. Never mind.
Well, that was certainly
funny in my
weird.
head. You've done it before yourself, Chatter. Come on, back me up
Yeah,
on this.
but I just go, right?
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, the point being, I don't know if there's an active mod team on this thing, and if there is, they're doing a crap job. I know that there are some pin posts that come up here. Often, like, if I go back to the hot section, there's a pin post that, like, mentions an announcement. Sure, you can put announcements up there every once in a while, but the only stuff that I see, like, happen on this subreddit at any given time from a moderator perspective are a couple pin posts and then some that get deleted if memes are posted at the wrong day of the week. That is freaking it, and that isn't enough. Okay. There needs to be quality control on this kind of stuff. So you need like a questions mega thread to go through that people can click on, find answers to what they need.
No, mega threads suck.
Mega threads suck. Yeah, no. So
mega threads suck. Boo.
I'm literally looking at the Pro League subreddit right now, and the last like news on that was like 2 weeks ago about Pro League. What's happening this week? Six Masters is happening this week. There's Russian Major League. There's Challenger League Season 11 for both NA and EU and fucking LATAM, right? Yeah. There's the
we didn't even talk about how LATAM had zero traction.
There's
like,
the fucking
there aren't even post game threads that are made for LATAM until like usually like an hour after the games are done.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get a whole bunch of talk about LATAM stuff because I speak English, and I have more people coming from Australia and New Zealand to watch the content that I make than people who are from Brazil.
They speak English, go talk to them.
No, but the majority of them won't come to what we do because we don't have the same way of talking. We don't speak the same language. Like, it's a simple problem from what I can tell, but I may have it. It may be over my head.
Just as a side note, the other thing about the subreddit is upvote things. There's like good content that's posted on the subreddit that gets like 1 or 2, like 3 or 4 or 10 upvotes, and like that's it. And it's like there are literally like 100 and something, almost 200 people watching this. Like, if literally all of you went and upvoted good content, the average post would be almost 200 upvotes. Like, and just like if I see stuff that's like actually important, I upvote it. I upvote so much on that subreddit. I don't really downvote. I only downvote like hysteria and like people who are just absolutely fucking crazy. But it's like, the problem is like a good clip will be posted on the subreddit and it will get like 10 upvotes. And then like a haha funny Fabian Twitter screenshot, which fine, like share those. There's nothing wrong with sharing those, but like, why is this getting like 800 upvotes? Why is the canine thing getting so many upvotes? Like, Sam is right. Like, Sam goes, there's so many pivotal things that have happened over like the last week and a half that we can discuss, and yet the most upvoted post right now is Stokes, which, mind you, is very funny, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, the fact that it says Stokes and it's a random picture of a bunch of UFC commentators with Sam's face very poorly photoshopped over top, and all the comments literally just say Stokes is funny. That's very funny, and I love that kind of stuff. But the problem is that when there's a major imbalance, and that's the shit that's getting upvoted repeatedly. And then here are the most played operators for flex entry fraggers in 7 of the top leagues of Pro League, 220 upvotes, 22 comments. And yet, any fun names for teams that are playing worse than they're supposed to, 17 upvotes, but more comments. What?
Is this just kind of the moment when we realize people on this subreddit don't understand how to use Reddit at all?
Yeah. I don't think it's that. I honestly, and I've been thinking this for a while, and I think I've said it out loud 1 or 2 times. It has become abundantly clear to me that people who watch Rainbow Six esports either don't watch any other esports and or don't watch other sports either. Because the fact that people have to ask us when the next games are instead of just using a portal system like the ESL website or SiegeGG or Liquipedia. Like, I literally, my friend that doesn't watch esports at all was like, this was like a year ago. He was like, yo, when are you home? Blah, blah. And he's like, let's coordinate plans for a trip. And I was like, okay, yeah, I have to go to the studio a couple times. So when I was in Poland, I was like, yeah, I have to go to the studio a couple times. He literally just looked up Rainbow Six esport, and that was it. And like the first result was ESL, and he got like all the times. And he's like, oh, you guys go live in like 2 hours. Are you working that show? And it's like, this guy doesn't watch esports at all. And he was able to literally just Google
Rainbow Six Esport, and all that information pops up on Google for you. Liquipedia will pop up, Siege will pop up, ESL will pop up, Ubisoft's website will pop up. And it's just like, people don't do this. People are like, how do I find games? Literally go to YouTube and type in Rainbow Six Esports, and then you will find games. Like, it's on Google. And it's just like, it blows me away. And then it's like, I see people right now, and I don't want to pivot into this, but this is going to be the end of this rant because I am very annoyed. But
I would be too.
All the people that for so long, and I have a good memory to remember this, all the people for so long that have been harping at how they want Rainbow Six to be seen as just as legitimate as League or CSGO or Overwatch or whatever. And they're like, we need to move Rainbow Six offline from Pro League or from online to LAN. We need LAN for Rainbow Six Pro League. It's the logical evolution, the next step in evolution for Rainbow Six Esports. We need LAN, blah, blah, blah. So what happens? We get a LAN league. There's some growing pains. We have issues with LG and EG, issues where it certainly looks like one of the orgs lied. It certainly looks like another org didn't want to keep a team that was underperforming for financial reasons or otherwise. And what does Ubisoft do? Their hands are tied. They can't just abandon the league now when you've still got 6 confirmed teams and 2 that are now supposed to be rumored to be coming in. And now everybody has suddenly got amnesia, and half the people in the subreddit are like, this is a tier 2, tier 3 esport. There's no reason to have a LAN league. They're going to kill the game. And it's like, what? Am I taking crazy pills? Like all of you have been bitching about having a LAN league for fucking months, and it's finally happening. And now you're like, the LAN league's a mistake. Nobody wants it. And it's like, you are aware that like, probably over a year has gone into planning this, and they can't just hit the brakes on it because a couple former pro players are annoyed on Twitter that they're losing their spots. Like, I get it. It sucks. It's a terribly unfortunate situation. I feel for the players. And I think it's shit that the players won't be able to play because they didn't lose their spots. The orgs lost them their spots. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, there are going to be growing pains when you move an entire league to a specific location.
This is what I've been saying. It's going to be a rough transition. Just get through the bumpy part and we'll be fine once we're on the other side.
The problem is that
this difficult.
This same thing happened in every ecosystem. Overwatch, the competitive community was almost torn apart. Overwatch put a moratorium on all competitive leagues for almost a year prior to Overwatch League. Mm-hmm. All of the people who were playing in Apex way back in the day, the endemic orgs like Cloud9, like Fnatic, like Rogue, all had to buy into a franchise model. Many of them did not stick around. We saw the same thing with Call of Duty. We saw players get ripped from their old teams. Optic imploded. The org itself had to disappear and go under, got bought out by Immortals in large part because Optic's bread and butter was Call of Duty, and that was changing. 100 Thieves dropped their team. They didn't buy into the franchise model. When you move to a LAN league, it doesn't matter who you are. There will always be somebody pissed off. There will be people who will lose their jobs. Players, people behind the scenes, orgs, somebody's paycheck is about to disappear because that's what happens when you have to literally physically relocate people and set up an entire new infrastructure around it. You didn't pick up a team with the idea of buying a house in Vegas or renting a house in Vegas and having everybody live in Vegas and play there and provide all this shit for them. You literally bought a team that you pay them a salary and they live at home and you don't have to do anything else. Well, now you do. That's going to change what you perceive an esport to be and how much you want to invest in that. Like, that's just common sense to me. Like, clearly these businesses are like, well, this doesn't make sense anymore. We could pay them, $4,000 a month per player, 20 grand plus a coach, and that's it. And now teams are going to have to pay upwards of 40 to 50 grand to be in Vegas. And they're like, whoa, that's over double what we were already paying. We don't think that's worth it. We're out. Well, of course that's going to happen. You didn't pick up a team expecting to pay that much. You didn't expect your overhead to be that much. So you pull out because it's not sensible financially. And like, this doesn't just like clue in to people that this is going to happen. Like it confuses me. It really confuses me, man.
I think we've gone through a good portion of a subreddit rant at this point, but I don't want to end this portion without...
This is not about the subreddit, by the way. This is just about people not understanding our esport.
Correct, yeah. Right. But I think this would be a lot easier to avoid if, like, I just wanted to add a call to action, like, right in here. If you are upset with, like, the way that communication has been nebulous around the whole of the esports scene. And if there's something within the midst of, all of these situations that you're not understanding, it's totally understandable. There's going to be facts that will slip through the cracks. There's going to be information that's available on some platforms and not others. There's information that we can disclose and information that we can't because we're waiting on, like official word. We're waiting on announcements for this kind of stuff to come out. So if you understand what's going on, talk about it. Present the facts so people can, generate discussion and have opinions on this kind of stuff. But if you think that there's information that's being buried, then go consume this content that people are making so that these questions can be answered, so that you have an idea about what's going on. Go find the podcast, clip what you can. I think if we start a movement over just trying to get people this kind of information, put it on Twitter, put it on the subreddit, look for opportunities to get this dispersed to a broader number of people, because you're right, there will be people who don't want to go through a 2-hour-long podcast to find the one answer that they were looking for, and in the midst of that, they're just going to say screw it, it's not worth it, and then not bother to go digging for the info themselves. So if you we at the Hammered Podcast are now hiring people free of charge to come and clip stuff and put it on the subreddit and Twitter. So please, this is a problem. It may not be a problem the way I'm presenting it, but still, it's something we need to take care of, because we're not doing enough as a community. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's a two-way street. We help out the game by doing the stuff that they very clearly aren't doing themselves officially. So, we both have to find a way to survive at the same time.
All right. So I'm looking right now, and here's my request for everyone listening. We have NA, EU, LATAM Challenger League. We have Six Masters 2020. We have PG, the Italian Nationals 2020. We have Russian Major League. We have the Benelux League. And we have the Hungarian League. There's no excuse for you not to find something cool and post it. It is in your time zone. There is competitive level Siege being played. Find a play that you think is interesting or cool or whatever. Clip it, post it, and then fucking underneath just explain why you think it's cool. Just like, fucking, if someone does a cool rush, hey, I think this is an interesting way to do a rush. I think it would, behoove you to watch this and maybe bring it to your fucking rank games. Like, just fucking figure something out. You're all smart people. Most of you are smart. Some of you, it's a good 12% of you that have at least 3 brain cells.
Include the asterisk, yeah.
Not that I'm trying to get onto a whole elitist thing, but I will say right now, there are currently, 5 posts made in the last 25 minutes on the subreddit, 4 of which involve me being angry, and 1 of which is a call to action for people to watch podcasts. And I think that's great. But what tends to happen is that whenever there's a podcast in which people literally say, hey, start sharing podcasts and clipping pertinent information, there will be a surge at that time, and then it immediately dies off. For example, that stream I did a while back, 2 weeks ago, it was 3 hours and like 10 minutes long, about me talking about the past, the present, and the future for Rainbow Six balancing in the game, and etc. It got one part of it was clipped. That was it. One part out of 3 hours and 10 minutes. Apparently, there was only one 59-second bit that was worthy of going on that subreddit. I'm not trying to think that I'm great and that people should clip more of my stuff, but surely I touched on other points that people in the community would think would be worthy of discussing. Veli just did an On the Flank podcast like a couple days ago. 0 clips I saw on the subreddit. The Logic Bomb podcast just had Lanny on it. 0 clips that I saw on the subreddit. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, you do a good job of talking about certain things, and like the people that are like common Redditors show up, like in my stream, there's a couple people whose names I recognize from Reddit on Twitter and Twitch, but it's like, it needs to be like, we need to put in work. And it's like, people have like literally said to me without even batting an eye, they're like, well, why don't you clip it? It's like, why don't I clip my own stream and post a bunch of clips of it on the subreddit?
Because that's masturbatory.
First and foremost, that's actually against most subreddit rules for self-promo. But additionally, like, it's not my job to clip my own content for the community. I am already providing that for the community by doing a podcast. When you guys do your podcast, you are doing the same thing for them. It's not incumbent upon you to clip your own content for the subreddit. You clip your own content and post it on YouTube and socials for yourself. Like, the community needs to do the legwork to discuss it. And it's like, I like that the people are sharing it right now, but I literally had this same rant on the Flank podcast like 2 months ago. And it's like there was a surge in posts. And then inevitably what happens is some dickhead is going to go online and see that there's 4 posts that literally start with Interro. And then somebody's going to go on and be like, what's with all the Interro clips?
It's not the point.
Now we're literally back at square one.
Yeah.
And it's like, awesome.
I mean, remember everyone, just to bring it back to the start of this conversation, this isn't me and Jacob's podcast. This is our podcast.
But in more than a meme sense, yes. This is our thing. This is something special that we have where we can communicate with you, we can bring people on, we can discuss important things, but it will ultimately come down to a good, strong community surge to be able to bring this together and make this a good, worthwhile thing for other people to consume, even if it's in bits and pieces. This is something we all have to do. If it was just like, it's not like Ubisoft would need to go out and like hire people to go and clip this kind of stuff, because that would kind of be a fruitless endeavor. There's no way that is going to happen. The fans of this esport are going to have to pull their weight more than they have been, because they haven't been. It's just not the way that we have been drastically underperforming. Like, there's a tweet that I keep on falling back on. It's actually from you, Parker, from a long time ago, saying this community doesn't have a whole bunch of content. Podcasts, videos, whatever the content is, keep it up. And this was before I started making YouTube stuff. But I remember retweeting this, and I retweeted it, and the comment just says, "On it, Chief." And I did. And I remember out.
That.
Yes, I started making this. It was just... It's a call to action. It's there. It might not be like, please make stuff, like we need it desperately, but it was still a call to action. So I take that, I try to formulate a way in which this kind of stuff can be presented, because I know there's nothing about it on YouTube. There's not a whole bunch of, why is Staaben on my screen? I hate you. There's not a whole bunch of content being, just developed by anybody, but I think there's a niche that can be filled, and if people are asking for it, then there very clearly is. So it's not, you can do this yourself, or you can help us be the ones to do it. No, I'm so distracted by Stalin.
For those of you listening to the audio version, I have brought a picture of Josef Interro Stalin.
I'm trying to be serious, man.
And currently saying hello to his son before he goes back to work in the Gulag mines. Okay, there we go. He has duels to win in the Gulag. Goodbye, Stalin.
I love how you absolutely annihilate a great point that Jacob is making.
Would you like to finish the point? Because
Jacob, would you like to continue?
Chowder was the Pro League subreddit right now. Jacob is going on like an educational rant that should be shared, and then Chowder's like, a picture of Stokes, to the top you go. Like,
communism intensifies.
Fuck. Sorry to interrupt your educational content with funny things, man.
I was telling an anecdote, man. I was telling a story about how Parker got me into Siege Esports. I'm sad.
It was a good dote. Main takeaway here for me is just upvote shit. Post more, but more than that, upvote things. Like, upvote things. Like, the more it gets upvoted, the more people interact with it. If your average Timmy and Andy that's scrolling through Reddit, if they see like a Twitch clip and it's got like 8 upvotes, they're not going to think it's important, and they're not going to watch it. First and foremost, video content is always usually the least digested content, because it usually has a buy-in of whatever time the video is.
Right.
A Twitter screenshot you consume in seconds. Haha, funny. Oh my, outrage. Oh, wow, that's smart. Those 3 reactions take no time at all. Boom, fire off a comment, you're done. A Twitch clip that's a minute long requires you sitting down and listening to maybe a coherent rant for 59 seconds, maybe not. It requires a buy-in. A lot of people will be like, oh, it's 59 seconds and it has 8 upvotes. It's obviously not that valuable.
This doesn't have obviously nipples on it. Why the fuck would I watch this Twitch clip?
Dude, I literally do the same thing. If it's a subreddit where I'm not like particularly invested in, like for example, like Overwatch made like a bunch of sweeping changes like a week ago or something like that, or announced sweeping changes a week ago to a number of different of their heroes. And it's like, I follow the competitive Overwatch subreddit, and it's like so-and-so's opinion on like, CC changes. And it had like 22 upvotes, which is terrible for the competitive Overwatch subreddit. And I'm like, either they're not saying anything useful or they're not saying anything new, and that's why nobody's interacting with it. I don't feel that it's worthy for me to spend time watching this.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Overwatch League, when you show like the Dallas Fuel logo, you also have to show a bunch of their sponsors now, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that I knew this was because people were making jokes about it. Like, whenever anyone would say the Dallas Fuel, they would say Dallas Fuel brought to you by Jack in the Box in like parentheses, right? So like, that's a way better way to get information than like, some guy sitting here going like, oh, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the issue with the Dallas Fuel in like a fucking 15-minute video on something that can be shown with an image and a little caption.
Yep.
This is the exact reason why I've tried to prioritize the stuff that I make to be short, digestible, full of meme ridiculousness, because the idea is hold them for a certain amount of time, give them information, get them to laugh at something, and then see if they will continue to do that at some point throughout the video. There are people who have called it cringe. There are people that can't understand why I go to the back of my room to yell about stuff, but that's because it's an engaging point. That's a point where you can lock in and say, okay, if I get my audience past this certain time frame, that's a checkpoint. They've passed a checkpoint as a viewer. Now I can go through and make the rest of the video include the information. It's in a 5-minute soundbite. Sure, 5 minutes might not be time that you can spend. That's a third of the amount of break time I have for the 2 breaks I get at every work shift, because I get 15-minute breaks at work. That's a third of that. Do I really want to spend that much time? I've had to try to find a way to make people care about what goes into these things, because there can be a lesson to be learned in the video. There can be information to be gained that you could find on Reddit or Twitter, but you didn't want to, so you came here. Like, there's a whole formula, a whole strategy to try to get this to work, and it's still coming down to people needing to digest it. People still have to consume it. You're absolutely right. Keep things short. I talked to a friend of mine who also makes content in a similar vein to this, but they do it in a 17-minute long video. And it might include all your points. It might have everything spelled out word for word for word. I get it. You can write essays and put them into video format. That is completely understandable. But if you do it in a way that people will look at it and immediately think it's not worth my time to watch this, then you've already failed. You can have it in the thumbnail, you can have it in the title, you can have it in the post that you make it on Reddit, you can have it in the description. It's not going to do anything if you don't have a method of attacking your audience with this stuff and making them stay around for the rest of it. And ultimately, if the problem is nebulous communication and people not wanting to stick around for the info that they need, then this comes again back to how do we work with a community that is so absolutely infuriating to get them, or to allow us to get our points across. Because at the end of the day, if they hate it, and that's the thing that they're complaining about the most, then it kind of feels like it's a failed system, and there needs to be some sort of culture change to make this work in the long run.
There's a psychological concept. I'll just keep this short because this can get long and technical. There's a psychological concept that can be best described as buy-in. It's the idea that someone needs to feel like their time isn't being wasted. They need to participate, right? And for everyone, that amount of buy-in is going to be different, right? It's a term therapists like to use when they're onboarding new patients, where it's like, you need to have buy-in. This can't just be something that you come talk to me for 60 minutes and then nothing happens, right? You need to feel like you're getting something out of this, right? So when you look at a piece of content, even, there needs to be an onboarding process. You need to be bought in. For some people, that could be, oh, this is just an image. This is easy, right? A 60-second video with no fucking context, that requires a lot of buy-in. Because for someone who's new, A, who the fuck is Interro? B, why the fuck should I care? And C, I'm not going to spend fucking 60 seconds watching something that I don't know who it is and what they're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. Already right now, since we made this comment about the subreddit, and we talk about like digestible content, and that's the big thing, right? Is it's like you talked about buy-in, Jacob talked about like making it short and to the point. I think that there are a lot of people who are totally clueless on where to find information. The sheer volume of people who ask me on Twitter or who ask me on Twitch, you know, when is one team playing? When is Pro League coming? Blah, blah, blah. And they just don't either have access to this information or don't understand how to find it. goes to show you that there is very clearly a huge portion of this community that just they don't consume information at all. They want it spoon-fed to them, or they just don't know where to look. And Jacob has got a couple hits on this, like on the subreddit. And I mean like hits, I mean like he's taken a beating because the subreddit is like, wow, it's a tweet in video form. And it's like, you fucking idiotic gremlins. Like, the purpose of this content is not to help you. You are not the target audience. The people who live and breathe on Pro League Twitter and the Pro League subreddit are not the people that the video is made for. The video is made for people who maybe check in once a week and want a recap on what's going on. Oh, I can go on CaliberJacob's YouTube. Boom. There's 4 videos on all the goings on this week. They're only 5 minutes long. I can watch them and now I'm up to speed. I don't have the time to read a subreddit for an entire week. People say the same thing about me. People are like, why do you tweet about news? Why do you tweet about roster changes? Blah, blah, blah. Because there are tens of thousands of people who follow me who might not be following those teams or those players, or they might not see the tweets elsewhere. There's nothing wrong with sharing greater news. And then people turn around and they're like, everybody already knows. Well, clearly not everybody knows, dipshit, because people are interacting with it. And it's the same with Jacob's content, and it irritates me so much. And already, it's been 30 minutes since these posts went up on the subreddit. 40 minutes since these posts went up on the subreddit. And we have such gems as somebody saying, post clips of the podcast, blah, blah, blah. We need more people to be addressing this. A genius on the subreddit responds to that person saying, do you post them? How remarkably stupid and unhelpful is that? Like, that's not the fucking point, dipshit. And then it's like, and then another one here. We had it, and I already addressed this, but here it is.
Okay.
Somebody goes, Interro has said this a million times, blah, blah, blah. But I've never seen his ass posting clips or making posts.
That's an F
As
moment.
if I need to say out loud, yeah, I'm not going to clip my own streams and post them on the subreddit. Like, and this is the stuff that we like have to actively battle against. We have to like actively battle against people who are just fucking denser than molasses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
You need that NVIDIA shit, Jacob.
I live right across from a fire station. Just hold, please.
You should have moved the fire station when you were designing your town and city skylines.
I mean,
definitely
honestly,
should've.
like, no, what you really need is that like NVIDIA RTX stuff.
I probably should, yeah. I don't usually have noise problems, but I wanted to leave my window open because it's nice outside. Anyway.
I wonder what that's like.
think,
It's raining here.
It's not raining here.
I'll make one very brief point about the fact that people have kind of misinterpreted the stuff that I've made. That's the same reason why I put something on the subreddit, or I tweeted about saying that my content's not made for the subreddit, because if they already know everything, then why would the content that I make then be digestible for them? And I said that straight up. I'm like, I don't know if what I make is going to find a home there. It started there for sure because it was something that the scene lacked, and I'm trying to fill a void as best I can. But the whole idea about where my content is supposed to go being misinterpreted has gotten interesting, to the point that I made a tweet about I put out a video about EG and LG, not saying anything aside from the stuff that was already said publicly. I didn't divulge anything. I just tried to give a summary and say, hey, this is kind of where we're at now. This is what public perception is like. If you're not on Reddit, you're coming to what I do. I already understand this. And what happens is I then see all the comments on that video start trying to see if they can't spell doom for the Siege esports scene in some way. And I'm like, okay, it's not going to die. Ubisoft just killed the scene. No, they did. So I go on Twitter. And what I do on Twitter is I say, we will be fine. This is a crap situation. This is going to pass over. It's a rough patch. It's a transition. We're going to be fine. Please wait for more info. Someone says on that tweet, you should tag the LG guys in here. Someone tags the LG guys, and then there's one pro, I'm not going to say which team or who specifically it was, calls me a troll and blocks me. Not only is this particular person acting like a petulant child, but it's not setting a good precedent, and it's being completely misinterpreted because this person clearly doesn't understand why that tweet was being a thing. I'm trying to play damage control for a YouTube comment section that doesn't completely understand what's happening, and I'm trying to do my best to be like, hey, just be aware. we are going to be okay once this smooths over. We get more information. We will more than likely come out on the other side of this without too many, major issues. Does it suck that the EG and LG guys don't have their spot anymore? 100%. But I'm not going to spell doom and gloom for the scene, because that's not the point that we're at now. Everything can be completely misinterpreted by people who are just looking for, a reason to complain about something. And that's where we sit right now, in the midst of a very, very difficult transition that isn't even completed, because we're still waiting until when Sao Paulo was supposed to happen for Ubisoft, more than likely, this I'm guessing here, but the same weekend where Ubisoft would announce all the stuff that was going to happen for the next season of PL might have happened at that event, or at the very least within that same week, that same time frame. We will get through it. Just wait for more information, and people will still take that and say, well, I'm not hearing anything, so why should I give a crap anymore? Ubisoft just killed the esports scene.
Can we not be as pessimistic as we are? Can we
be realists while still being optimists? Is this too hard?
It's kids. That's what it is. And somebody actually mentioned this, and obviously this is going to sound like a circle jerky comment, but
sure.
It's like somebody mentioned this on the subreddit. They were like, you guys notice how all of the people that are saying like esports is dead, Siege is dying, Ubisoft, blah, 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 are all like young, and all of the older people in the scene are like, hey, calm down. Like, and I honestly think a lot of it's experience. The same thing happened with the Hyena situation when he put out that tweet where it was like, it said something like, fuck an NDA, like my mama never raised me to lie or something like that.
Mama didn't raise me like that, I think is what it said.
Yeah, or something along those lines. And then it's like, Yardy commented on it, Drip, and was like, somebody said like, you just killed your career, blah, blah, blah. Like, why would you go out on record and do this? Like, yada, yada, yada. And Yardy, who I'm pretty sure is like 19, 20, 21 years old.
He's 19 or 20. Yeah.
Yeah, responded saying like, no way, teams aren't gonna like pick up Hyena, like he showed he had integrity, like blah, blah, just because he spoke out on like something that's immoral. And I'm like reading this comment, like, and my brain is like wrinkling inside of my head. And I'm like, the fact that whether he did or did not break an NDA, the fact that the title of his post gives everybody the impression that he doesn't give a shit about breaking NDAs. Whether he broke it or not, it's very clear that he doesn't care if he did. And he went on record publicly exposing the sausage making that goes on in the background, while publicly and personally calling out one of the most important people at Ubisoft. And you somehow think that any team or company that has a sane PR firm working with them, or a PR team themselves, is going to trust this guy ever again, is just so just nonsensical.
This isn't yeah.
I have seen people torch their careers for way less. They have said something under one NDA to somebody else who's under another NDA, and it gets leaked or it gets circulated, and those people are blacklisted from an entire industry. I come from politics. I watched people literally set their careers on fire by engaging in water cooler gossip. That is a far cry from going on Twitter and blasting out your employer and your former org under what could have been a legally binding document that then is picked up by various media outlets and becomes a PR hurricane. And I was just reading that being like, this is like the height of ignorance of how the real world works. And then it's like, I as a 29-year-old oftentimes get a reality check with, it's like these like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids probably actually haven't worked a real job ever. And if they have, not a serious job. It's probably like some minimum wage job where they're like a part-time worker. Like, and I can tell you right now from firsthand experience, if anybody thinks that you're going to break your NDA and thinks that that's a risk, you're going nowhere. And I responded to him and I was like, people are going to think that this is like some awesome dunk, but like you couldn't be more wrong. And then it was like, I had a bunch of kids like telling me like how laws work. And I was like, come on guys. Like I man, and it's just like and then a lot of these young people are also fans of the esport, which is great because they're super passionate. But the problem is that we need to like escape that bubble where it's like all just people with no real world experience telling us how the real world works when they've never seen it firsthand and never had to deal with it firsthand. But because they have Twitter and Twitter is free, they have the same opinions that everybody else has. But we take them as just as legitimate, which they're not. They are not legitimate. And a lot of the shit they say is founded on a world that does not exist, on zero reality, zero experience. And then people who also lack experience in real world, training, etc., will then turn around and think, oh, I think this too. Let's circle jerk around it. And then these things fly. And then unfortunately, common sense is gone because everybody's outraged and nobody's using their brains.
Yeah. I mean, like, not to date myself and become a boomer here, but this isn't the fucking Wire, right? You're not going to tell it like it is and then suddenly everyone's going to respect you more. Fucking NDAs are serious business. No organization is going to hire you because you tell it like it is. They're going to hire you because you're a fucking corporate stool pigeon.
Yeah.
Going to hire you to do a job and trust that you can actually do what you're supposed to do and keep secrets where they need to be kept. Like, they hire you for a promise of reliability. Like, the guys on LG got signed by LG under the promise that they would do great in a Siege Pro League scene. It's a promise of reliability. To not be reliable in a scene that requires it, or in the midst of a job where that is all you're supposed to do, will come back to bite him. I think I have respect for the guy, but I think he's done. I don't see a way in which a smoking gun like that will get hired back onto a team regardless of whether he's got a muzzle or something. And I don't even know what a team would do in that case. It's unfortunate.
He's an enormous PR risk. You talk to you go and you talk, and I've said this before, and people don't believe me. I spoke to, at least that I can remember right now, 3 esports orgs, some of whom may have teams in the scene, some of whom may not. And when the game was growing really rapidly, sometime after the 2018 Six Invitational, I had a huge number of esports orgs reach out to me, and they reached out to a bunch of people, casters, content creators, etc. I was not alone. I was no special figure that they wanted advice from.
Us, Parker.
But I guess they saw me as like impartial, and they were like, hey, we're thinking about picking up a team. Can you give us some guidance? Can you give us like blah, blah, we have some questions. Oh, we're thinking about this roster. What do you think? Like, we have some questions about these players. And there were 2 orgs in particular who refused to pick up a roster. Could be a separate roster, could be the same roster. I'm not going to disclose, because of their social media content. And there was another org that there was a problematic player with an issue in the past on it that refused to pick up that team because they were afraid that that person would be a loose cannon. And they were worried about what picking up that org, or that team rather, with that player on it would do if they got asked uncomfortable questions about, well, if you knew that this player had said this, had done this, why did you pick them up? What these people did, these players that caused those 3 orgs, and these were all tier 1 orgs for the record, what these players had done pales way in comparison to cavalierly and flagrantly saying you're breaking an NDA. An NDA is serious shit. People can be sued for all of their money for them. I don't think people realize the severity of breaking an agreement that you signed. There is a reason why you are signing a document that says, I am not allowed to talk about this. A lot of the NDAs that I'm on are for like 3 to 5 years after. There are things that I've play tested that I'm not allowed to talk about if they don't show up for 3 to 5 years. This shit is serious business. Companies will take legal action against you if you break your NDA. And a lot of people just didn't realize that. Like, do I think it's brave that he did it? Yeah, I think it's brave. Do I think it was the wrong thing to do? Yeah, I do. I think it caused a headache that it didn't change anything. It didn't fix anything. I know Ubisoft well enough to know that the best way to deal with Ubisoft is going through back channels. They said they tried. Fair enough. Fine. It didn't work out. This is a nuclear option. Maybe they were all out of options. I'm not going to judge him on that. I like Hyena a lot, and I'm not in his position. But at the end of the day, you can't just go and say, I'm going to break an NDA without worrying about the consequences. And if you're going to break an NDA, you better fucking make sure you have a lawyer ready to back your ass up and has looked over what you're going to say. Did a lawyer review Hyena's tweet longer before it went out? Probably not. I mean, maybe, but probably not. And then when he tweeted an hour and a half later saying, oh, I actually didn't break the NDA, did he have a lawyer review that as well to know that he didn't break it? I would assume probably not again. That's reckless, man. That's reckless. You are fucking over your entire career and your future careers. When people Google his full name, what do you think's going to pop up?
It's going to be a fucking
news articles
Dexerto article about him shattering NDAs like they're fucking watermelons and he's Gallagher.
You Google his full name and news articles in esports will pop up talking about that, and they will be explicitly linked to him breaking an NDA. And I love Hyena to death. I think he's an awesome guy. I am very worried as to what that will do for the rest of his career.
I'd love to have a chance to sit one-on-one with him about that kind of stuff and figure out what was going through his head when he said it, because I think I might have said this in the video earlier. It seems like this was a do a little wrong to do a big right kind of situation, and he very much feels like doing what he did was the little wrong as a means of kind of exposing what's going on and trying, for the sake of transparency to do this. But it's made difficult by the fact that there's enough of an emotional piling on at the same time that goes into an action behind this that you can react emotionally, which is what the majority of Twitter and Reddit did, saying defend the players, or you have the logical way to look at things, which is something that gets thrown out the window whenever you have the potential for an emotional response. That's what this scene, if nothing else, over the past 6 months has taught me a lot of. You have a heart invested into something, and it will suck to see, the logical response be the one that takes over, because everyone will, react as rationally if possible, but the irrationality will be the thing that ultimately takes over every single time. And I know I was actually wondering if this was something we could avoid talking about, because I said we're beating a dead horse. We've said so much about this already, and continuing to go on the line, I don't know if it helps anything, but it doesn't look like, from anyone else's perspective, that the way in which Siege Esports is handled at the end of the day is done in a professional manner that can help contest that Siege Esports is in a tier 1, tier 2, or sorry, is in a tier 1 situation, should be, given a bigger platform. Because if we can't handle our own internals in a way that makes sense for everyone involved, if we don't seem like we're professional in the way that we handle conflict like this, then what's to say that we're better than anyone else who's, at a tier 2 level that is looking to try to rise further up the chain? Like, how do we get more, notoriety within the scene without becoming infamous in the process? It just, incidents like this don't help anything. And God, I wish I had a closer for this point, but I don't.
The point that I've always made is, when you look at other esports, with the exception of maybe like Dota and CSGO, because it's a lot less decentralized and way more like the Wild West, players are nowhere near as free, if I can use that word, to say the things that Rainbow Six players say. We have had Rainbow Six pros call the devs idiots and monkeys.
Unacceptable.
We have had Rainbow Six players stream and badmouth devs. We have had them ridicule them. We have seen them call them idiots, blah, blah. They have, and nothing ever happens. Nothing happens. Literally nothing happens. Fabian steps over the line and he gets media banned and people have meltdowns. Like, if a professional athlete said or did the things in an interview that Fabian has said and done, he would be getting fined repeatedly over and over and over again, and probably also media banned.
Colin Kaepernick kneeled like twice, and now he doesn't have a fucking career.
Okay, I mean, that's opening a can of worms that I think is very different. And I think there's a big difference between, Fabian saying shit or fuck.
Yeah.
Or calling his opponents poor or something like that, versus, making a political statement against the national anthem. I think those are wildly different. But at the end of the day, like, the thing is that we need to all be held accountable. You, me, Jacob, all of the players, everybody needs to be held accountable, and there needs to be a standard. Orgs need to media train their players. Ubisoft needs to shoulder some of that burden if the orgs won't do that as well, because whether they like it or not, the players also represent Ubisoft. If players can get punished by Ubisoft because the players represent Ubisoft, then I firmly believe Ubisoft needs to take a stake in this and then get them some fucking media training. Like, if you're going to punish somebody who doesn't want to be an ambassador for you, I would bet you most players wouldn't want to step up to the plate for Ubisoft. If you are going to force them to be ambassadors, and when they say something bad, say, well, you represent us. Well, good. Then you have some responsibility to assist them and prevent them from saying stupid things then.
I mean, we talked about
this.
this.
It goes both ways.
We talked about this a lot last week with Milos about how fucking, like, organizations need to media train their players and people need to fucking, like, there is some crazy shit. Like, I follow. So let me make a comparison here, right?
Sure.
So a comparison of someone like, I don't know, fucking Pengu, right? Compared to someone like Doublelift, right? I know there's a huge power imbalance there, right? But Pengu is I would say Pengu is probably in the West. Pengu is the Doublelift of Rainbow Six, I'd say. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Compare what Pengu says to what Doublelift says.
Yeah, because they're all media trained. They're like, and that's the thing is like they are brands.
Compared to what fucking Pengu says,
will have a lot more at stake than somebody like not to call you out in this case, but somebody like Forrest. Pengu will have a lot more at stake with what he says because of all the things he has to manage as a personality outside of just playing the game professionally, because he has a streaming career. He's known in the content space, whereas Forrest is not, which means he will care a lot more about what he does on social media than someone who doesn't have nearly as much of a following. But sorry, I'm just trying to illustrate to help you there.
No, you're fine. And compare it within an org, right? Compare someone like fucking Perks or Caps to Pengu. Right? It's very obvious that Perks and Caps have been media trained, but Pengu hasn't.
Well, maybe they haven't been media trained. Maybe they haven't. Maybe that's just who they are. I mean,
I don't know.
I've been media trained twice. Like, it's definitely doable, and it's, I don't know, man. The big problem that we have with esports, and I don't know exactly if you guys have another topic or not, but the big problem that we have with esports is that there's no path to being a professional esports star. You think about the American system. You get involved in sports at a young age. You're getting trained and groomed to be a professional when you're like 5 or 6 years old. Like, you're going through like high school and like you have responsibility. You're still a kid. And then when you go to university, you're still a kid, but you get trained. There's a support structure there for you for the most part. Sometimes there isn't, but for the most part, depending on what state you grew up in, depending on what schools you go to, there's a support structure. You have an agent/management team. There are people looking out for your best interests. Sometimes those people claim they're looking out for your best interests and they just want to steal your money. But at the end of the day, you've at least got somebody around you. But then you look at esports and it's like, what? It's literally like a bunch of people who end up being like innately talented at a video game, and they just get picked up. And next thing you know, they're a huge superstar in their community. And you've got, you know, tens of thousands of people following you potentially. And I remember I had this conversation with a pro, and I was in DMs because I try not to engage in slap fights on Twitter because I don't think it's appropriate. I DM'd this was probably about a year and a half ago sometime. It was during the yellow meta. And I remember one of the players was being extremely bad on Twitter. Just stupid, cringy shit, just being really aggressive and just destructive in what they were saying. And I DM'd them the tweet, and I was like, surely you can't think this helps. Like, why are you tweeting stuff like this? Like, I'm not your mom, I'm not your boss, but like, this is a stupid tweet to make. This is hurting. Like, this is going to cause so many issues and so many headaches, and it's not going to fix anything. And then they responded to me with, and I'll never forget this response because I think it so perfectly encapsulates that line of thinking. I have a platform. This is what my fans want from me. This is what I'm going to give them. And it's just like, I didn't even have words for it. Like, I couldn't even like try to deal with that line of thinking where it's like, you don't need to shit on a developer. It's not what your fans want. Like, it's not why you have your platform. It's not helpful. It's not constructive. It's immature. Like, are you just doing it for clout then? Like, it's what your fans want? Your fans want you to dunk on Ubisoft? Like, and I was so blown away. And at the time, I think they were 18 or 19 years old. And like I said, this was during the yellow meta. So it was like season 7, season 8 window, somewhere around there. And yeah, they were like 18, 19 years old. And I was just like, come on, like, learn how to use social media. Like, learn, like, and I've said this time and time again, I know that every single pro team has a direct line to the dev team. I know they have it. If they tell you they don't have it, they're lying. And I can tell you right now, they are lying. They have it. And yet a lot of times they don't use it, or they don't use it effectively. I've seen some of the emails that pros have sent. I've been tagged in chains. I've been in Discord servers. I've been in Discord calls where I have literally seen the vitriol that certain pros will send them being like, this is a remarkably stupid decision. What the fuck were people thinking? And that's like almost a quote verbatim. And it's like, that is not how you address feedback. And then you turn around and you have these pros will go on Twitter and be like, oh, we told them, we gave them feedback. They didn't listen to us. There are a lot of people who are great at giving feedback. By the way, big shout out to Lycan and Helby, probably two of the best people at giving feedback in a constructive and polite way.
100%.
But then I see other pros, and it's like, I literally see the messages that you send to devs in a it's a private Discord, but it's a public channel with like dozens of pros in it and casters and stuff. There's ESL staff, there's Ubisoft staff, and I literally see you like asking the devs like, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, when you then go to Twitter and act like the good guy, oh, we gave them feedback. I don't know why they didn't listen to us. They didn't listen to you because you send your feedback like a raging baby in an aggressive and hostile manner.
Oh, yeah.
And none of it was constructive and none of it was productive. That's why you probably weren't listened to. Like,
It's what my fans want. Jesus Christ. My fans, the guys on my channel want me to talk about leaks. I'm not going to. I'm not going to mention a thing that isn't confirmed by somebody else because I know the potential it has to piss somebody off. You kidding me? No, I'm not going to do that. Why would you... You can't cave to that kind of stuff. Have a moral compass. Sure, you can rake in profit, but at what cost?
Then, I mean...
You shouldn't be disrespecting another fellow human being over a video game balancing decision. That's reprehensible.
If you don't have a moral compass, you know, the other argument there is it's way easier to be on the good side of a billion-dollar company that holds your career by the balls than the bad side. But,
which is why I'm careful about what I say, but I'm not going to be outwardly hostile.
A lot of these people, like fucking Interro said, they're kids. They don't know. They probably started playing Siege when they were fucking 15 or 16, right? On like Xbox. And then they go to PC and fucking whatever. Like,
they go to PC, they hit 18, they find a way to get to CL, they get an offer sheet from an organization who probably hasn't checked and seen if they're social media trained, and then at this point, you know, it opens up a possibility for train wreck because they didn't need it to get to the point that they're at now, and now they have a platform. Oops, our bad. We didn't know we shouldn't have given these guys media training.
I mean, let me be very clear that it is way easier to come back from like literally hacking than it is from the shit you post on social media.
Yep.
Sure.
Right? Simple. The best CSGO player who's ever lived fucking got way more flack.
Simple.
Yeah, it's got to be simple.
Simple got banned. I mean, even look at Shiko.
Look at Shiko. Shiko got banned for 2 years.
Shiko cheated. He got unbanned early because of the ESL rehabilitation thing. And I mean, you think that somebody saying naughty words or hating on the devs is going to get unbanned that quickly? No. You know, like this ties back into the fact that these are largely kids. These are largely kids, and it's people who don't have a ton of experience in the real world and think that things should be a way, but will have a very rude wake-up call when they step out into the real world and they realize, like, the amount of just random people in the community who are younger who think that the pros should be running this game alone blows me away. What other job do you get to tell your boss how things go?
If I talked to my boss like that, I wouldn't have a job.
Correct.
Like, and don't get me wrong. And don't get me wrong. Like, I agree with the pros on most of their problems with the balancing these days. And I do agree that the game would be in a better place if the pros' feedback was heavily prioritized and Ubisoft didn't try to tinker with that feedback the way they have. The pros agreed that, you know, for the most part, Buck was too strong. Jaeger could see some nerfs and Mozzie was a little bit too useful. And then the devs literally go and nerf them in all the wrong ways. I thought that's silly, and I said that was silly, and I tweeted about it, and I put it on social media. I basically put it on every platform I could, thinking that it's utter lunacy the way that they've balanced these operators. I don't think they solve the issues. It's not the why of these operators are so good that they're answering. But at the end of the day, you see me doing it in a constructive way. And what you don't see is that I also fired off 2 separate DMs and an email about this feedback that I have in private that people don't have access to. And I talked to people from Ubisoft about it, and my email was answered. And I had constructive conversations because I didn't rage on the internet. And because these are kids, when you become a pro, you go from being, no offense to most of these people, but if you're a gamer, you're likely just kind of sitting at home. You might not have a huge social circle. Nobody really cares about nobody cared about my opinion until I became a caster.
Nobody cared who you were until you put on the headset. Nobody cared who I was until I started to cast. But it was like, now people care about it just because of my job. Same with pros. Nobody cared about these players until they became players. And now people care about their opinions a lot. And people don't realize that you have a responsibility, not just for what you say, but you also have a responsibility for what people hear. Dog whistles, coded messages, implications, etc. You need to be very careful with the way that you craft things because you have fans that don't speak the same language that are going to misinterpret it. They might not see the humor in it. They might translate it incorrectly. There might be people who just simply don't understand the point that you're getting at. And a lot of these players, they get the endorphin rush. Retweets are endorphins. They love it. They get super stoked. They tweet something angry about Ubisoft. It's low-hanging fruit. Boom. 2,000 likes to the top you go. Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're like, wow, this tweet is fucking great. And they tweet something positive about Ubisoft a week later, and guess what? It only gets 300 likes. What kind of behavior do you think that reinforces? So then you see people starting to lead into more outrage. And then it just becomes this ugly cycle, and it ends up being the Ouroboros, the snake that eats its tail. And this is where we're at. This is where we're at right now.
Well,
and this is not a Rainbow Six thing, by the way. This is literally social media / esports.
Yeah.
This is everything.
This bleeds
is everything.
into everything.
This is not
else.
just Rainbow Six.
Yeah, no. There's a reason. Like people like. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to give him the dignity. There's a reason people like the Gnome exist, right? It's because people love the endless cycle of drama bullshit.
People love drama, dude. People love it.
It's great.
If people
I love drama too.
If people didn't love drama and gossip, People magazine wouldn't be one of the best-selling publications in the world.
I absolutely love drama.
It is nothing but garbage about
the Pro League
celebrities.
subreddit is the People magazine of Rainbow Six.
Don't you ever fucking slander People magazine like that. So
what do you want me to do?
I read People magazine. All right, shut up. Like, I fucking love drama, but do you know where my drama comes from? I watch terrible reality shows because those are so.
At least you're upfront about it.
Yeah, they're so obvious. Like, I watch fucking Real Housewives because that shit is hilariously fake.
Yeah.
Right? You think any of those people would be on those shows if they genuinely hated each other?
No.
Like, I watched The Bachelor. I watched fucking, like, crotchety, rank-ass reality shows because they're terrible and they're fake and there's obviously no stakes. And it's just, there's a certain part of, like, manufactured drama, and then there's, like, real, actual, I'm gonna burn an NDA with my fucking lighter and just go at it drama, which is really bad, right? It's you need to find a better outlet. If you are a drama fiend, then fucking watching people torch their careers on social media.
I mean, I take no pleasure. Like, when I read Hyena's Twitlonger, my first thought was like, there goes his career.
Yeah.
That was my first thought.
Yep.
I mean, I don't particularly like drama. I can find it interesting depending on who and what the circumstances are, but there was nothing I enjoyed about reading the LG-EG situation. There was nothing I enjoyed about the way that people responded to it. There was nothing I enjoyed about the backlash that's happening now against Ubisoft and the state of our game because of Mo now, taking a break / leaving Rainbow Six, whatever it's going to be. I don't take any joy in that stuff. I get saddened by it. Like, I get saddened that our game is in a place right now where there are people who feel like it is a valid thing to do to quit. I think there are a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And I have said time and time again, my biggest gripe with Ubisoft is that they are reactive. They are not proactive. How long have we been asking for a training grounds? Why do people need to download CSGO onto their computers or download aim labs to aim train in this game? How hard is it to literally add a training mode with like targets like we see in Valorant? How hard is that? How hard is that, literally, to just have like random bots pop up and you just shoot them in the head while you can switch guns and switch your reticles? Like, I'm not a dev, but with how complex Rainbow Six is, you take most of the complexity out of that. Why is it not a thing yet? How long until we're going to get it? Are we ever going to get it? A streamer mode. Literally just hide the names of everybody in the game. Make sure that there's a way that everybody has a unique ID that you can report at the end. That's it. That's really all you need. How long would that take? Realistically, how long would that take? Probably a couple months. And there's not even any news on it, let alone the fact that it's not here. We don't even know if one is coming. Like, these are things to me that are just like, they're indefensible. The Lion, Blackbeard, and Ella nerfs were indefensible how long they took. The changes to ranked were like indefensible how long we needed to start changing ranked, get the ship maps out, and start making the game more competitive.
I mean, ranked was in beta until when? Like 4 years after this fucking game came out?
Something like that.
It's just, to me, like, I get it. Like, I love this game to death, and I get frustrated because I want to see it succeed more than it is. And I think that the sky is the limit for Rainbow Six, and I think the one big thing that we need to take solace in is that the dev team is getting faster at responding to these things, and most of the major and significant gripes that we had have been fixed. We are still left with some massive issues. Cheaters, DDoSers, that kind of thing. That's obviously the biggest single issue right now in this game. And I think that they need to balance a couple other operators a little bit differently and maybe make some tweaks to the game in regards to, changing the way that operator bans work, adding a solo queue for ranked versus a team queue, that kind of thing. But ultimately, a lot of the huge issues that were plaguing this game for years have been smoothed out. The game is in an objectively better spot than it was 2 years back in terms of the way it runs and functions and operators being decently balanced. Mm-hmm. But I can see where the frustration of people get. And I get extremely disappointed with how slow Ubisoft is on fixing a lot of these things, which to me, we've been talking about them for months. Some issues we've been talking about for years. We've been talking about like a shooting gallery / an aim trainer for years. And their solution was to take bombers out of T-Hunt and barbed wire and C4 as well.
No, they didn't take C4 out of T-Hunt. They just made like...
They took out the C4 rooms and the barbed wire rooms. Yeah, they took out the...
Yeah. No, that's what I mean.
Filled with it. Yeah.
And it's like, what? Like, why? I don't know. Like, it's just... I don't know why this stuff takes so long. I get that things take a while, but I don't, to me, as a layman, I don't know why it takes so long for them to get around to implementing it and working on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think at the end of the day, what we've learned is, pro players, please watch what you say. Ubi, any communication at this point is helpful to get everyone else on the same page and understand where we're supposed to be sitting right now. And community members, please think before you react, wait for more information, and clip our freaking podcast. Please. Do it for the community.
Not just our podcast.
Do all of them.
Like I said,
someone just posted on the subreddit a link to all of the podcasts that we've got right now. To be fair, it's not a lot, but they're all right there. Logic Bomb's got one. We've got one that runs every Monday.
On the flank
does his whenever Veli does a podcast. Go clip some stuff from that.
If you give a shit about fucking ANZ Siege, Talking Siege exists.
It exists. I don't know if it still does, but I know it used to run for a while.
There's that podcast, Talking Siege.
No, they ended Talking Siege.
Oh, okay.
You were on the last episode of that, weren't you?
I was on the last episode.
Yeah.
There was fucking Zaku's podcast, right?
What happened to that? They were doing that. It was him and Yardy, right?
There's the Fan Logic
Yardy and
podcast
Shuttle?
that runs from subreddit guys. So the subreddit has a podcast.
subreddit has a podcast.
Yeah, but they haven't done that in ages.
Yeah.
It's been a hot minute, yeah. Smoothie, what's happening with that podcast? Let me know.
Smoothie,
dude.
fix your shit. Right? But like
Parker does Bang On. There are more clips from Parker Bang Ons than almost anything else on the subreddit. We can find a way to change that. Just be more proactive.
I mean, I wouldn't call Bang On a podcast. I would call that an IngSoc meeting, but that's because just a guy staring at a camera and just talking for like 2 hours.
You're not wrong.
The other thing too with Bang On is that they're not weekly. Like
they're reactive.
I use them to talk about issues when issues pop up. They're not by deliberate design. They are not there for me to talk about certain issues unless there is an issue present. And I mean, there have been times where it's like we'll have a 2-3 month off season and there's nothing to talk about. I'm not doing a podcast about nothing. So
that's fair.
I don't know. I think your fans would watch you stare at a camera for an hour and a half, just not blinking.
I mean, people watch me stream and it's even worse. So I don't know.
Once the patch notes came out, didn't you like stop streaming ranked right in the middle of a stream to just do nothing but talk about the patch notes for an hour? I swear I was in stream when you did that. So
yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of fucking content for you to watch in Siege.
Sharing the content is the most important part.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just 100%. If you see something, I don't give a shit if you fucking post it on Reddit or whatever. You show it to a friend. Be like, hey, you know, I saw this video on, that Reaper put out on how to one-way smoke fucking when you're attacking our locker. What the fuck is that?
Armor lockers on border?
Border, yeah, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
When you're attacking that, right? I sent that to one of my friends. He's, a silver. He's not very good. And he's like, oh, this is really helpful. Thank you. And he did it and he won the site. And he's like, oh, this is so cool. Thanks for sending me this. I'll check this guy out. Right? And you subscribe to, send people these things. Send your friends these things.
Sorry, not Geometric, just Geo. I forgot that she hates being called Geometric, but she makes her own longer form content. Like she did one recently about multiple teams within EUCL. She did one about Penta recently. She's done stuff about Empire, and she does good work. So go, share her stuff around because she doesn't get nearly as much attention for all the effort she puts into stuff. 100%. Go watch her stuff.
Yeah,
it's there. We're doing our best. I'm doing what I can. I'm not the full. The full armada of Siege content. I just grew quick. I'm doing my best. Go watch this. It's there for you. Follow the Siege GG stuff. Anywhere you can find something.
Yeah.
Share it with the people you don't think have enough information because I promise to God, the info is there. It just needs to be seen.
And it doesn't even have to be pro league content creators. As much as, fucking Interro'S going to give me a death stare for this. You see a cool coconut bra angle? Send it to someone. It's just.
I'm waiting for the stare.
No, I think it's fine. I mean, I don't mind that. It's because I got killed with some coconut bra shit last night. I was really bitter about it.
He's just sitting there like, I fucking hate coconut bra.
Somebody had punched out this little tiny hole in one desk through another desk in theme park, and I died to it. And I was just like, I didn't even know that was possible.
He's just sitting there like, I didn't even fucking coconut bra. Fucking 14-year-olds.
I bet you anything that's in a fucking coconut bra video, dude. I bet you anything. And it's like. I got so mad and I was like, I'm not one of those fucking nerds that just watches all of his videos. I don't have time to do that.
I have a life. I don't have time to watch 8 hours of a guy finding rat angles.
Yeah, I was like, I wish I could sit down and watch 8 hours of coconut bra a week so I could fucking galaxy brain these kids. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. I'm getting killed from angles that don't even fucking exist. I'm fucking running through. They're defending kitchen in the bottom of cafe. I'm dropping skylight, 3rd floor. I get killed from a spawn peak in chalet. Fucking coconut bra. He's sitting in bathroom on chalet. Snipes me across 2 maps. What the?
All right, that's all the time we got for Hammered this week. Make sure you do find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. This will be out on the YouTubes later in the evening. Make sure to go on Apple Podcasts, send us reviews, because we read those reviews on podcast because I've got nothing better to do. It is on Spotify. It is on Apple Podcasts. Just search for Hammered and you'll find it. Parker, the floor is now yours. If you have anything you'd like to shout out, anything you want to plug, you've got a couple seconds. Make it good.
Yeah, donate to your local food bank if you have the funds to do so. People need it.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you for joining us on
Thank you for having
our
me.
podcast.
Thank you very much, man.
Thank you for Stalin
Nope.
multiple times.
Stalin's the bane of my existence, interrupting
being
that
all
point
over
now.
the screen.
God, I was gonna have a clippable moment on the subreddit, and then Stalin just had to ruin it.
There he is.
Oh, no, Stalin, it's okay. You don't have to be shy. It's okay. He's your friend. See? Twinsies. This has been the Hammered Podcast, episode 6, with Vladimir
this.
Ilyich, Parker, Interro, Mackay.
Mackay!
Lennon.
Lennon.
I hate
Lennon.
it here, bro. I hate it here.
I hate it here too. Thank you all so much for watching.